Hey, wide awake family. If you see this, it's your sign to smash that like button. Yes, you listening right now. That way YouTube shows you more amazing stories like this one. We love you all. Now enjoy the stories.
The moment I unmatched him felt small, almost boring. Just a thumb swipe and a quiet little vibration from my phone, like closing a tab you do not want anymore. There was no drama, no argument, no scary message beforehand. That is what made it hit so hard later. There was nothing to warn me that unmatching was not actually the end of it. The date itself had been forgettable in the most annoying way. Not bad enough to complain about, not good enough to justify a second round. We met at a casual place with outdoor seating and chipped tables that wobbled if you leaned wrong. He talked a lot about himself, but not in an aggressive way. More like he had practiced his stories and did not know when to stop. I nodded, smiled, checked my phone once or twice. The usual. Nothing felt dangerous, just dull. When we said goodbye, I felt relief more than anything. I walked home, shoes scraping the sidewalk, already thinking about what I would eat later. I opened the app while waiting at a crosswalk and unmatched him without hesitation. It felt clean, decisive, like I had done something small but correct. My phone buzzed again almost immediately. New match. I'd assumed it was a coincidence. Apps do that. Someone swipes while you are still holding the phone. I tapped the notification without thinking. Same face. Same photos. Same bio, down to the weird line breaks and the typo in the third sentence. But the name was different. It said you can't. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like I missed a step on the stairs. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, waiting for the profile to refresh or glitch or turn into something normal. It did not. I closed the app and reopened it. Same thing. I unmatched again, harder this time, like pressure mattered. The match disappeared. My heart was racing now, that heavy thump you feel in your throat. I locked my phone and told myself to stop being dramatic. Maybe it was a prank account. Maybe someone copied his profile. People do weird stuff online all the time. My phone buzzed again. New match. Same photos. Same bio. Name changed again. This time it said try again. I felt cold all over. I looked around the street, suddenly aware of how quiet it was. Cars passed. People walked by. Nobody looked at me. Nothing felt different except my pulse. I opened the chat. There were already messages waiting. Not new ones. Screenshots. Screenshots of our conversation from earlier. My messages highlighted. Timestamps circled. Notes written in the margins like someone was studying for a test. Next to the moment I laughed at one of his jokes, there was a note that said positive reinforcement. Next to the point where I said I was tired, there was a note that said disengagement attempt. I unmatched without reading further. The app lagged for a second longer than usual. Then another notification popped up. New match. Same everything. Name now said you don't get to decide. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. I blocked the account. Then I blocked the original one too, even though it was already gone. I went into settings and reported it, fingers slipping on the screen. While the report screen loaded, another notification slid down from the top. New match. I did not open it this time. I turned my phone face down in my palm like it could see me if I looked at it. When I got home, I locked the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. I sat on the floor and waited for my heart to slow down. After a minute, I picked the phone up again, forcing myself to look. The app showed 0 new matches, 0 messages. Everything looked normal, clean, quiet. I almost laughed. I went to bed telling myself it was over. That whatever glitch or prank that was, it had stopped. I plugged my phone in and then turned it face down on the nightstand like I always do. Sometime after midnight, it buzzed. I did not touch it. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting my breaths, trying to pretend it was nothing. It buzzed again, and again. Finally, I picked it up. Not a dating app notification this time. It was a system alert saying an app had been installed. I knew I had not installed anything. The icon appeared on my screen without animation like it had always been there. White background, no logo, just text. You can't. I tried to delete it. The phone asked for confirmation and froze. The screen dimmed slightly and a message appeared saying action not permitted. My chest felt tight. I restarted the phone. It took longer than usual to power back on. When it did, the app was still there. I opened it before I could stop myself. The interface looked like a dating app stripped down to its bones. No branding, no colors, just profiles scrolling endlessly. Every single one was him. Same face, same bio, different names. Too late. Almost. Why did you think that would work? The matches were endless. I scrolled and scrolled, my thumb numb, my brain trying to make sense of it. Every profile had notes attached. Behavioral predictions, likelihood of compliance, exit resistance score. My name appeared at the top of the screen under a header that said active subject. I threw the phone on the bed like it burned me. I did not sleep. In the morning, I took my phone to a repair shop, trying to sound casual while my insides felt like they were vibrating. The guy behind the counter poked at it, frowned, and said he did not see anything wrong. He said there was no unknown app installed. He handed it back to me like nothing was unusual. The icon was gone. I felt stupid, embarrassed, like I had imagined the whole thing. Until my phone buzzed while I was still standing there. New match. I did not open it. I left the shop and walked for a long time, trying to ground myself in the sound of my own footsteps. When I finally checked the app again, there it was. Same photos. Same bio. Name now said you should not have left. I deleted the app entirely. Then another dating app I barely used sent me a notification. Same face. Same bio. New name. We're still talking. I factory reset my phone that night. New email. New accounts. I told myself that would fix it, that nothing could survive a full reset. For a while, that worked. Weeks passed. No notifications. No mirrored matches. My heart rate slowly returned to normal. Then one afternoon, I was scrolling a completely unrelated app and an ad popped up. His face. Same smile. Same bio text repurposed as a caption. The tagline underneath said you already matched. I dropped my phone and watched it slide across the floor, screen still glowing. I do not use dating apps anymore. I do not swipe. I do not match. I keep my phone as bare as possible. No extras, no permissions. Sometimes I still check the App Store list just to make sure nothing new snuck in. Every once in a while, when my phone lags or an app refreshes on its own, my stomach drops. I think about how easy it felt to unmatch him, how final it felt in that moment, how wrong I was. The question landed wrong the first time, but I let it slide because dates are weird and people ask dumb stuff when they are nervous. I remember exactly where I was sitting when she asked it, a corner booth in a diner that smelled like old coffee and fryer oil, vinyl seats cracked from years of people sliding in and out. It was one of those places that felt stuck in a loop, like nothing bad or good ever really happened there. I thought that meant safe. I was wrong. We matched earlier that week. Her profile was light, almost playful. Photos with messy hair, mismatched clothes, goofy smiles. Her bio said she liked road trips and true crime podcasts. That part should have stood out more than it did, but everyone likes true crime now. It barely means anything anymore. We talked for a few days, mostly jokes, nothing deep. She laughed a lot through text, used too many exclamation points. I figured she would be bubbly in person. When we met, she was exactly that. Energetic, friendly, leaning forward when she talked. She ordered before I even sat down, like she already knew what she wanted. The conversation flowed easily at first. Work, bad dates, random stories that went nowhere. It felt normal enough that my guard dropped. Then she asked if I had ever been reported missing. It was so random I actually laughed. Like a sharp, surprised laugh that slipped out before I could stop it. I made a joke about how I barely left my apartment, how nobody would even notice. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. She looked at me like I gave the wrong answer on a quiz. She asked again later, phrased differently, if anyone would notice if I disappeared for a few days, if I had close family nearby, if my job tracked my attendance closely. Each question was slipped into conversation so smoothly I almost missed how specific they were. I tried to keep it light, joked about my boss not caring about my friends being flaky, but every time I laughed, she watched my face closely like she was measuring something. The third time she asked, it was quieter. She leaned back in her seat, fingers wrapped around her mug, and asked if anyone had ever looked for me and not found me. I laughed again, more awkward this time, and said no. That was when her expression changed. Just slightly. Disappointment. Like I had told her a movie ending she did not like. She said we could work on that. Not in a threatening tone. Not dramatic. She said it the way someone says we can fix your resume or we can adjust your schedule. Practical. Casual. Like it was a small project she already planned out. My stomach dropped. I felt cold all of a sudden, even though the diner was warm. I asked what she meant, trying to keep my voice steady. She shrugged and said people went missing all the time. She said most of them were not actually gone, just misplaced in systems. She said it was easier than people thought. I stopped eating, my fork hovered over my plate while my brain tried to catch up. I told myself she was joking. Dark humor. True crime brain rot. But she did not smile. She took a sip of coffee and started talking about cases she read about. People who slipped through cracks. Adults, not kids. People whose routines changed just enough that nobody questioned it right away. She talked about timelines. About how long it took before someone was officially considered missing. She said the first 72 hours mattered less than people thought. She said it was all about pattern disruption. I looked around the diner. The other customers felt far away, like they were behind glass. The server refilled our water without really looking at us. Nobody noticed anything wrong. I asked her why she was asking me this. She tilted her head and said she liked preparedness. She said some people were easier to account for than others. She said it was important to know where someone stood. Stood where? She asked about my phone, whether I shared location with anyone, whether I posted regularly, whether I ever took breaks from social media. I answered vaguely, trying not to give her anything useful. I could feel my heart beating faster with every question. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. She said I had a good face for posters. I stared at her, waiting for a smile, for any sign she was kidding. None came. She explained that some faces stuck in people's minds better. Symmetry. Approachability. She said mine had that quality. She said it was unfortunate and useful at the same time. I pushed my plate away and told her I needed to leave. She frowned, genuinely confused, like she did not understand why the date was ending. She said we were just talking. She said I was taking it the wrong way. When I stood up, she stood up too. Not blocking me, just matching me. She asked if I wanted to walk outside together. She said she knew a shortcut through the alley that cut down on traffic. I said no, sharper than I meant to. Her eyes narrowed slightly and softened again. She said okay. She said maybe another time. As I grabbed my jacket, she asked one last question. She asked what name people would use if they were looking for me. Legal name. Nickname. Which one would be printed? I did not answer. I walked out without looking back. The air outside felt heavy, like it pressed against my chest. I walked fast, not quite running, my brain replaying everything she said, fitting it together in ways I did not like. My phone buzzed before I reached the end of the block. A message from her. She said she hoped she did not scare me. She said she'd just like to know people deeply. I blocked her immediately. When I got home, I locked the door and checked the windows. I felt ridiculous doing it, but my hands were shaking. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall, listening to every sound in the building. Curiosity hit me later that night, mixed with dread. I searched her name online. It took a while, but I found a blog. Not popular. Just a few posts. She wrote about systems. About disappearance as a social failure. About how easy it was to lose someone if you understood the rules. One post mentioned a diner. Not by name, but by description. Vinyl booths. Bad coffee. She wrote about a man who laughed when she asked the wrong question. She wrote that laughter meant he was unprepared. My chest tightened as I scrolled. There were comments under some posts. Usernames with numbers. People agreeing. People asking how to identify suitable candidates. She replied calmly, methodically, like she was explaining a hobby. I closed the page and cleared my browser history. I did not sleep much that night. The next day, I told a friend about it. Tried to make it sound casual. Halfway through, I realized how bad it sounded out loud. He told me to report her. I checked the app. Her profile was gone. Not unmatched. Gone. For a while after that, I changed my routines. Took different routes home. Checked in with people more often. I shared my location with someone for the first time in my life. It felt paranoid, but it also felt necessary. Sometimes when I see missing posters taped to polls or shared online, I think about her tone. How calm she was. How disappointed she looked when I laughed, like I had failed a test I did not know I was taking. I still think about what she meant when she said we could work on that. Not in a dramatic way, just in a quiet, lingering way that makes my stomach drop at random moments. Because she did not sound like someone imagining something bad. She sounded like someone planning something practical. The moment I realized I was being timed was the moment my chest started to hurt. Not panic exactly. More like pressure, like something invisible was counting down, and I was the only one who did not know the rules. Up until then, the night had been awkward but manageable. The kind of date you plan to forget by the time you get home. I had no idea I was about to be stuck inside it. We matched earlier that week. His profile was intense in a quiet way. Lots of text. Paragraphs about fairness and systems and how people misunderstood him. He talked about transparency and accountability like they were hobbies. I almost swiped past him, but curiosity got me. I told myself it was good to hear someone who cared that much about how things worked. We met at a small place near his apartment. Not busy, not empty. Just a handful of tables and music low enough that you could hear the clink of glasses. He was already there, sitting straight, phone placed carefully to the side. He smiled politely and stood up when I arrived. Everything about him felt rehearsed, but not smooth, like he had practiced the steps but not the rhythm. The conversation was fine at first, a little stiff. He talked about his job, about how algorithms controlled more than people realized, how ratings shaped outcomes, how one bad interaction could follow you for years if you were not careful. I nodded along, half listening, half watching the clock in my head. As the night went on, he kept circling back to the app, not in a bitter way, in a worried way. He asked how often I left for views, how honest I was, whether I believed in second chances. I answered vaguely, trying not to step on whatever invisible landmines he had set. When I said I needed to head out, he froze. Not dramatically, just stopped moving for a second too long. Then he smiled again, but it was tight this time. He said there was one more thing he needed before I left. He reached into his bag and pulled out a notebook and a pen. He told me he needed a rating, 5 stars, in writing. I laughed, assuming it was a joke that missed the mark. He did not laugh. He explained that verbal reassurance did not count. The system did not hear it. The algorithm needed text. He said anything less than 5 stars triggered a penalty loop. He said men like him did not recover from that. I stood up, my heart starting to race. I told him I did not leave written reviews. I told him I was uncomfortable. He stood up too and casually stepped between me and the exit. He did not touch me. He did not raise his voice. That somehow made it worse. He explained that the door would open once the review was complete. He said the place had policies. He said the system was watching patterns of compliance. He said refusal looked like malicious intent. I looked around for the staff. The counter was empty. The lights near the door were dimmer than before. I pulled on the handle slightly. It did not move. I told myself it was coincidence. Then I noticed the small sign on the door about timed locking after certain hours. My hand started shaking. He slid the notebook toward me. The page was already marked. A heading at the top with today's date and his name. Lines underneath waiting. He said I could write anything positive as long as it was sincere. He said sincerity mattered more than wording. I asked him to move. He shook his head gently and said this would only take a minute. He said the algorithm rewarded efficiency. I sat back down because I did not know what else to do. My brain was screaming, but my body felt heavy, like it was trying to survive by cooperating. I picked up the pen. It felt too thick in my fingers. He watched me closely as I wrote. Every word felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I wrote about the date being pleasant, about him being thoughtful, about appreciating his honesty. I hated every sentence. My handwriting looked wrong, shaky, and uneven. When I finished, he leaned in and read it carefully. Too carefully. He pointed out a phrase and asked if I really meant it. He said the algorithm flagged uncertainty. He asked me to reword it. I felt tears prick my eyes, but I blinked them back. I rewrote the sentence, stronger, clearer, more praise than I wanted to give. He nodded, satisfied, and then asked me to rate it, not just 5 stars at the top. 5 stars spelled out in the text. Redundancy increased reliability, he said. I added it. My hand cramped as I wrote. He finally stepped aside. The door clicked softly behind him, unlocking. The sound felt unreal, like it came from far away. I stood up slowly, afraid something else would be required. He smiled and thanked me for helping him stay visible. I did not respond. I walked out as fast as I could without running. Outside, the air felt cold and sharp, like it cut through me. I leaned against the wall and breathed until my legs stopped shaking. My phone buzzed immediately, a message from him. He thanked me again and said the system had already acknowledged the review. He said I did the right thing. I blocked him on the spot. When I got home, I scrubbed my hands like I had touched something dirty. I sat on my bed and stared at the wall, replaying everything. The calm way he stood there, the certainty, the belief that something unseen had power over both of us. A few days later, curiosity got the better of me. I checked the app from a friend's phone. His profile was still active, recently boosted, a new badge under his name indicating high engagement. I scrolled through his photos and noticed something new, a screenshot of handwritten text posted as one of his images. I recognized my writing immediately. The caption underneath thanked the community for honest feedback. I reported the profile. My friend did too. It stayed up. Ever since then, I get nervous when apps ask for ratings. When a pop-up blocks the screen and refuses to close until you answer. When something tells you your feedback matters. Sometimes when I am leaving a place and the door hesitates for half a second before opening, my chest tightens. I think about how easily I sat back down, how quickly I wrote what I was told to write. The scariest part was not the door. It was how convinced he was that the system would punish him if I did not comply.
Hey guys, really sorry to interrupt. If you're still listening, then you're enjoying the story so far. And if you are enjoying, then please hit that like button. That's all I ask of you. Thanks so much. Now back to the stories.
The first red flag did not feel like a red flag. It felt like trivia. The kind of random personal habit you store away and maybe joke about later. I remember thinking it was kind of clean, almost admirable, like she did not let things linger. That is how it started, with me respecting something I should have questioned harder. We matched late one night when I was half asleep and swiping out of muscle memory. Her profile looked like it had been made in a rush. Not bad, just simple. One clear photo, one blurry one, a short bio that said she did not like wasting time. That line stuck with me because it felt honest. We talked a bit that night and again the next day. She replied fast, but not desperate. She asked direct questions and did not soften them. What I wanted, how long I stayed on apps, what usually made me lose interest. It felt like speed dating through text. She suggested meeting the same day. Coffee, quick, no pressure. I agreed because I had nothing else planned, and because part of me liked how decisive she was. The place she picked was a small cafe near a transit stop. Lots of people coming and going. Bright lights. Nothing intimate. When I got there, she was already seated, phone face down on the table, hands wrapped around a cup like she had been there a while. She looked up and smiled like she recognized me from somewhere else, not just photos. That should have felt flattering. Instead, it felt oddly familiar, like we were picking up in the middle of something. The conversation moved fast. Not rushed, just efficient. She did not circle topics or linger. She asked something, listened, then moved on. When I asked about her work, she answered vaguely and redirected back to me. When I asked about her past dating life, she said she did not keep it around long enough to matter. That was when she mentioned the app. She said she deleted it after every date. Not after a bad one. Not after meeting someone special. Every date. She said it like it was brushing her teeth, just something she did. I asked why, expecting some answer about boundaries or digital detox. She shrugged and said they made her reopen it when they needed another one. The way she said it was casual. Not joking, not dramatic, just a statement. I laughed at first because that is what you do when something lands wrong, but you do not want to admit it. She watched me laugh and waited. She did not join in. I asked who they were. She looked around the cafe briefly, like she was checking something, and said it was easier not to think about them individually. She said the app sent signals. patterns, nudges. She said sometimes it stayed quiet for weeks, and sometimes it came back the same night she deleted it. She said she trusted the timing. My stomach tightened. I tried to reframe it in my head. Maybe she meant algorithms, notifications, the usual app stuff, but the way she talked about it made it feel personal, intentional. She picked up her phone and showed me her screen. The app was not there. No icon. She scrolled through folders to prove it. She said it was gone now if she said this date counted. I felt a weird pressure settle in my chest, like something just clicked into place without my consent. I asked what happened after she deleted it. She said she waited. She said eventually it always came back, sometimes with the same people, sometimes with new ones. She said the timing was never random. She talked about it the way people talk about weather patterns, like she had no control but understood the rhythm. She said she used to fight it. Now she just listened. The rest of the day felt off after that, not because she was cold, because she was calm in a way that did not match the situation. She asked if I believed things happen for reasons, if I ever felt pulled toward something without knowing why, if I trusted systems more than people. I found myself choosing words carefully. Every answer felt like it mattered more than it should, like it was being filed away somewhere. When we finished our drinks, she stood up smoothly and said this was enough. She said she did not like stretching things past their purpose. She thanked me for coming and said she would see what happened next. I asked what that meant. She smiled and said it depended on whether the app reopened. We said goodbye outside. She walked toward the transit stop without looking back. I watched her disappear into the crowd, feeling strangely unfinished, like I had closed a tab I still needed. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the app to see if she was still there. Her profile was gone. Not unmatched. Gone, like it had never existed. Our chat thread disappeared too. I told myself it was nothing. People delete profiles all the time. I went to bed and tried not to think about it. The next morning, I woke up to a notification. Not from the app I used to meet her. From a different one I barely touched. It said I had a new match. Her face stared back at me. Same photos, same bio, slightly reordered. One word change. Everything else identical. My heart started pounding. I checked the timestamp. The profile had been created hours earlier. I checked her distance. Same as before. I matched again without thinking. My thumb moved on its own. The first message popped up immediately. She said it worked. I asked what worked. She said the waiting. She said I had been selected again. She said that meant something. I felt sick. I unmatched and blocked her. Closed the app. Deleted it completely. For a few days, nothing happened. I started to calm down. I told myself it was a coincidence. People reuse photos. People have similar bios. I tried to laugh it off. Then another app sent me a notification. Different interface, same face. This time her bio included a new line. She said she appreciated consistency. I did not match. I did not open the profile. I deleted the app immediately. Over the next week, it happened twice more. Different apps, different layouts, same woman, same calm smile. Always appearing within a day of me deleting the previous one. Always with slight changes, like she was adjusting based on something I did. I stopped using dating apps altogether, removed them all, cleared my data, turned off permissions. I thought that would be the end of it. Then I got an email, not from an app, from an address that looked auto-generated. No greeting, just a short message saying I was overdue. It said the system preferred timely participation. It said delays caused inefficiencies. I did not reply. A few days later, another email came in. This one thanked me for my patience. It said the app would reopen soon. I changed my email password. Then my phone buzzed with a notification. An app I did not remember installing asked me to finish setting up my profile. Her face was on the welcome screen. I factory reset my phone that night. New number. New email. I felt ridiculous doing it, but my hands were shaking and I could not stop thinking about how calm she was when she said they made her reopen it. Sometimes now, when I see a new app trending or hear friends talk about matches, I feel that tightness in my chest again. Like something is waiting for me to log back in, like I am already on a list somewhere. I keep my phone clean, minimal. No dating apps, no social stuff I do not need. I tell myself that if I never reopen the door, nothing can come through it. But every once in a while, when my phone glitches or a new icon appears after an update, my heart skips. because she never said who they were. She just said they needed another one. I realized something was off before I could explain why, and it was not even something scary at first. It was just annoying. The kind of thing that pokes at your brain until you finally notice it and cannot unnotice it. We were standing in line waiting to order food, the menu board flickering slightly above us, and he was talking like the night had already happened, like we were recapping it instead of living it. I thought it was a joke at first, some dry humor thing, but it did not stop. We matched earlier that week. His profile was minimal. No emojis, no jokes, just a few photos and a line about liking endings more than beginnings. I remember thinking that was weirdly honest and kind of interesting. We talked for a bit, and he always sounded calm, grounded, like he was never rushing. When he suggested meeting for food, I agreed. Nothing fancy, just a place that stayed open late and served greasy comfort stuff. The restaurant was loud in that tired late night way. Clinking plates, buzzing lights, people talking over each other. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth near the wall. He smiled and waved like this was something we had already done before. When the server came over, he ordered without looking at the menu, describing what he wanted like it had already been eaten. He thanked the server for bringing it, even though it had not happened yet. The server paused, confused, then nodded and walked away. That was when I really noticed it. Everything he said was past tense, not just when talking about his day or his job. Everything. How he enjoyed the place, how he liked the lighting, how he appreciated me coming out. It was subtle enough at first that my brain tried to smooth it over, but once I noticed, it became impossible to ignore. I asked him about it, laughing a little because I did not know how else to bring it up. That was when he explained it. He said it was easier when you already knew how it ended. He said speaking that way helped him stay calm. The way he said it made my stomach tighten. The food came and he thanked the server again, this time for having already served us. He spoke about the meal like it had been finished, describing how it tasted and how full he felt, even while the plates were still steamy in front of us. I barely touched my food. I kept watching him, trying to figure out if this was some kind of coping thing or a prank that went too far. He ate normally, chewed normally, but talked like it was a memory instead of something happening in real time. As we talked, I realized he was describing the night in a very specific way, not just vaguely. He talked about how the conversation went well, how there was a moment of discomfort that passed, how I laughed at something he said and looked away. Things that had not happened yet. Then a few minutes later they did. My laugh came out exactly where he said it would. My glance away happened right after. It felt like my body was following instructions I did not remember receiving. I tried to change things up. I shifted topics suddenly, brought up something random. He paused and smiled and said that part always came later than expected. He adjusted, speaking like it had already happened too, just slightly out of order. My chest started to feel tight. I asked him how he knew what was going to happen. He said patterns were comforting. He said most people followed the same rhythms if you paid attention long enough. He said dates were especially predictable. He talked about other nights, other people, always in the same tone, like he was flipping through memories instead of sharing stories. He never said names, just outcomes, how they left, how they stayed, how some argued and some froze. He said it was easier not to be disappointed when you treated things like they were already done. I noticed he never used future tense at all, not once. No plans, no hopes, no maybes. Everything was already complete. I asked him what he thought would happen after we left. He looked at me for a long second, eyes steady, and said I would leave early. He said I would feel unsettled. He said I would replay the night later and wonder which parts were real and which parts were rehearsed. He said I would block him. He said all of that like it had already happened. My heart started pounding. I stood up slowly, my legs shaky. The noise of the restaurant suddenly felt too loud, like everything was crashing back into the present all at once. I told him I needed to go. He nodded calmly and said that was when it usually ended. He said I had been polite about it. He said he appreciated that. As I grabbed my bag, he thanked me for the night we had already had. He said it went about as well as it could have. I walked out without looking back. The air outside felt cold and sharp, like I had just stepped out of a dream. My hands were shaking so bad I had trouble unlocking my car. My phone buzzed before I even started the engine. A message from him. It thanked me again and said he hoped I found peace with how it ended. I blocked him immediately. On the drive home, my head felt fuzzy, like I was half a second behind myself. Every red light felt longer. Every reflection in the window felt delayed. I kept thinking about how many things he got right. How many of my reactions lined up with what he said had already happened. When I got home, I sat on my bed and stared at the wall for a long time. My apartment felt wrong, like I had already left it once tonight and just returned to the memory of it. Later, curiosity got the better of me. I checked the app one last time. His profile was still there, unchanged. The bio still mentioned liking endings more than beginnings. It felt less poetic now, more literal. I thought about how he must walk through his days, narrating them like they were already over. Like nothing could surprise him because it was all already filed away. I wondered if that made things feel safer for him or emptier. That night, I dreamed about conversations playing backward, words undoing themselves, moments collapsing into summaries before they even started. Even now, sometimes when I am talking to someone new and they respond just a little too smoothly, like they were waiting for my sentence to finish, my chest tightens. I slow down. I change my words. I try to stay in the present, just to prove to myself that it is still happening. Because the scariest part was not that he talked like it was over. It was that for a while, it felt like he was right. I should have said no the second she suggested it, but I did not. Not because I was brave or serious, but because I was tired of everything feeling half done. Every date these days felt like a preview that never turned into anything real. So when she asked me to meet her parents on the second date, it hit that part of my brain that wanted something solid, something that felt like a real step instead of another loop. We matched a week earlier. Her profile felt warm. Family photos cropped just enough to not show faces. Captions about tradition and home-cooked meals. She talked about her parents a lot, in a casual way. How close they were. How they liked being involved. She said it scared people off sometimes. I remember thinking it was intense but honest. I told myself intense was not the same as bad. Our first date was normal. Dinner at a place near downtown. Nothing fancy. She laughed easily and asked questions that felt genuine. When she talked about her family, her voice softened. She said they were excited to meet me. That word stuck out. Excited, like I was already expected. The second date plan came fast. She said her parents wanted to meet me properly, not just a wave later on. She said it mattered to them. She gave me an address outside the city in an older neighborhood where houses sat farther apart and streetlights were rare. She said they lived there forever. I drove out there on a Saturday afternoon. The farther I went, the quieter it got. Shops disappeared. Cell signal dropped to one bar. The road narrowed and trees leaned in closer, like they were trying to listen. I checked the address twice, then slowed when I saw the house. It did not look lived in. The place was old but not charming. Paint peeling. Porch sagging slightly in the middle. Windows dark and dusty. The yard was overgrown, grass tall and uneven. No car in the driveway. No lights out inside. It looked like a house people forgot about. I parked anyway. My heart started doing that slow, heavy beat that usually meant I should turn around. I told myself maybe they were out back. Maybe they did not care about appearances. Some people did not. I texted her that I was there. No reply. I stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked under my feet. I knocked. The sound echoed inside the house, hollow and raw. No movement. No footsteps. I knocked again louder. Still nothing. I was about to leave when I noticed the backyard. There was a break in the fence on the side of the house, boards warped and leaning. Through it, I could see stone. Not landscaping stones. Markers. Uneven shapes sticking out from the ground. My stomach dropped. I walked around the side slowly, every step feeling heavier. The backyard was worse than the front. Grass grown wild. Weeds curling around everything. And there, near the back tree line, were two gravestones. Simple. Gray. Weather worn but clearly cared for at some point. The names were carved deep enough to still be legible. They matched the names she had told me, her parents. There were dates under them, both from years ago. I stood there staring, my brain refusing to connect the dots. I felt cold even though the sun was still out. I checked my phone again. No new messages. I backed away slowly, eyes never leaving the stones. I almost tripped on a root and caught myself on the fence, heart hammering. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not some weird coincidence. She had told me they live here. She had told me they wanted to meet me. I heard footsteps then. I spun around so fast my neck hurt. She was standing near the back door of the house, watching me. She looked calm, not surprised, like this was exactly where I was supposed to be. She walked closer, smiling softly. She asked if I found them. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. My brain was screaming to run, but my body felt locked in place. She explained it like it was normal, like she was telling me where the bathroom was. She said they still lived here in a way. She said the house mattered. She said meeting them was important, even now. She stepped up beside the stones and brushed dirt off one of them with her hand. She said they liked knowing who she brought home. She said it showed respect. I felt dizzy. I asked why she would bring me here. She said because she needed to know how I reacted. She said some people left right away. Some people got angry. Some people stayed quiet. She said it told her everything. I took a step back, then another. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I told her this was not okay. My voice shook. She frowned slightly, like I disappointed her. She said they would have liked me. She said they trusted her judgment. She said they were buried where they wanted to be. I turned and walked away. I did not run, but every part of me wanted to. I heard her calling after me, telling me not to be rude, telling me to at least say hello properly. I got into my car with shaking hands and locked the doors. My phone buzzed immediately. Message after message from her. She said I misunderstood. She said family was complicated. She said this was her way of keeping them involved. I drove away without replying. The road felt endless, every tree looking the same. It took forever to get signal back. When it did, I blocked her number and deleted the app entirely. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched her name online. It did not take long to find an old local article. A house fire years ago. 2 fatalities. Their daughter survived. The address matched. I slept with the lights on that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those stones in the ground. The way she smiled beside them. The way she said they wanted to meet me. I still think about how easily I drove out there. How close I came to knocking again and waiting longer. How something inside me hesitated just long enough to see the backyard. Some families do not let go. Some people do not either. I knew something was wrong when my mouth stopped feeling like it belonged to me. Not numb, not frozen, just slightly delayed, like my thoughts were buffering before they came out. That had never happened to me on a date before. Awkward silences, sure. Nerves, definitely. But this felt different. Like I was not fully in control of the timing anymore. Like someone else had already stepped a half second ahead of me. We matched on a random night when I was bored enough to give anyone new a chance. His profile looked fine. Clean photos, neutral smile, nothing flashy. His bio said he liked patterns and preparation. I thought that meant meal prepping or planning trips. I did not think it meant this. We talked for a while before meeting. Nothing intense. Small jokes. Safe topics. He responded quickly but not obsessively. He remembered things I mentioned, which I found flattering at first. He suggested a casual place for the date, a quiet bar that served snacks and cheap drinks. Nothing romantic. Nothing loud. Somewhere people talked. I arrived first and sat near the end of the bar, scrolling through my phone. The place smelled like citrus cleaner and old wood. The lights were dim enough to feel relaxed, but not dark. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Same clothes as his photos. Same posture. He smiled like he was relieved to see me, which made me relax a little too. The first weird moment happened almost right away. I started telling him about how annoying parking had been, and he finished my sentence. Word for word. I laughed it off, said something about being predictable. He laughed too, but not the same way. More like he was checking something off in his head. It happened again a few minutes later. I began talking about my job, and he jumped in with the next phrase before I could finish it. Not roughly. Gently, like he was helping. I paused, then kept going, telling myself it was coincidence. By the third time, my stomach tightened. I changed my wording mid-sentence, deliberately choosing a different phrase. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, then adjusted, and still landed close enough that it made my skin crawl. He noticed my reaction and smiled. He told me not to worry. He said I was doing great so far. That sentence hit wrong. Doing great at what? I asked how he kept doing that. How he kept predicting what I was going to say. That was when he explained it. Calmly. Casually, like he was explaining a hobby. He said he had been rehearsing the date for months. Not just the conversation. Everything. He said he ran through scenarios in his head every night. He said he studied my profile, my posts, my replies. He said people were more consistent than they thought. He said once you mapped the patterns, the rest was just timing. My heart started racing. I looked around the bar, suddenly aware of how few people were there. How far apart the exits felt. How trapped I was on that stool. He leaned forward slightly and told me I was matching the version he expected. He said that was good. He said it meant he had done the work right. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice came out thin. I asked why he would rehearse a date like that. He shrugged and said surprises were inefficient. He said he liked to know how things would go before they happened. He said that way nobody got hurt. The conversation felt off after that. Not because he was quiet, because he kept guiding it. Steering it back toward paths he clearly recognized. When I tried to talk about something random, he gently redirected it. When I paused too long, he filled the gap with what he thought I would say next. I started to feel like I was watching myself from the outside, like I was a character hitting marks someone else had set up. I tested it. I said something completely out of left field. Something I had never mentioned before. He blinked just once, then smiled wider. He said that was new. He said it was okay. He said adjustments happened. He took a sip of his drink and told me he kept notes. Not physical ones. Mental. He said he ran through them before meeting me. He said he had practiced my laugh. My pauses. The way I tilted my head when I thought. I asked how he knew that. He said videos helped. Public ones. Stories. Clips friends tagged me in. He said once you had enough samples, you could predict most responses within a narrow range. I felt sick. I felt washed in a way that went beyond that night, like he had been present in moments I did not know were shared. I stood up and told him I needed to leave. He nodded immediately, like he expected that at this point. He said that usually happened around this stage. Stage. Another word that did not belong in a normal date. As I gathered my things, he said I was still doing well. He said leaving now was consistent with my profile. He said that confirmed a few things for him. I asked what things. He told me it meant I valued control more than politeness. He said that was good to know. I walked out without saying anything else. My hands were shaking as I pushed the door open. Outside, the air felt loud. Cars passing. People talking. Everything felt too real after the weird quiet inside. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A message from him. He said he appreciated the rehearsal paying off. He said next time would feel smoother. I blocked him while walking. I did not wait. I did not second guess it. That night, I could not sleep. My brain replayed every part of the date, trying to figure out where I could have gone off script if I wanted to. It bothered me that I had not, that so much of what I said had been predictable, that someone else had practiced being with me more than I had practiced being myself. Over the next few days, I noticed small things. How often I used the same phrases. How often I responded the same way to similar situations. It made me feel exposed, like my personality was just a set of habits someone else could learn. A week later, curiosity got the better of me, and I checked the app from a friend's phone. His profile was still active. Recently updated. The bio now mentioned liking consistency and reliability. Nothing about rehearsals. I thought about how many versions of that date he had already run through before meeting me. How many others he had practiced with. How many people thought they were having a spontaneous moment when they were really stepping into something already planned. Sometimes now, when I am talking to someone new and they finish my sentence, my chest tightens. I pause longer than I need to. I change words mid-thought. I break my own patterns on purpose, just to feel like I am still in control. I keep thinking about what he said, that I was doing great so far, like there was a finish line I never agreed to run toward. The first thing I felt was stupid for being impressed. Not by her looks for the restaurant or anything like that, but by how put together the night felt. Everything lined up too clean. The timing, the place, the way she moved through it all like she already knew what would happen next. I remember thinking, wow, this is what it feels like when someone actually has their life together. That thought aged badly. We matched earlier that week. Her profile said she worked in behavioral research. That sounded smart and intimidating in a way I really liked. Her photos were low effort but confident. No filters. No weird angles. Her messages were calm and direct, almost clinical but still friendly. She asked thoughtful questions, not the usual surface stuff. I felt seen in a way that felt mature, like I was finally talking to someone serious. She picked the restaurant, a quiet place with soft lighting and small desserts plated like art projects. Not fancy enough to feel fake, not casual enough to feel careless. I got there early and noticed the staff already knew where to seat us, like she had planned it ahead of time. That should have stood out more than it did. When she arrived, she smiled and apologized for being a few minutes late, even though she was not. She sat down smoothly, placed her bag under the table, and folded her hands like she was ready to begin. Begin what I did not know yet. Dinner went fine. Actually, more than fine. The conversation was easy but focused. She asked about how I made decisions, how I handled stress, whether I ever felt disconnected from myself. She nodded a lot while I talked, eyes steady, not interrupting. Sometimes she would repeat my words back to me slightly rearranged, like she was testing how they sounded. I did not notice that part until later. She told me about her work in a vague way. She studied patterns, how people responded to unfamiliar situations, how context shaped behavior. She said it was important to understand the difference between who people thought they were and how they actually acted. She said most people never noticed the gap. After the plates were cleared, she suggested dessert. I agreed without thinking. That was when she reached into her bag. She pulled out a clipboard. Not a notebook, not a planner. A full clipboard with papers neatly stacked and a pen clipped to the top. She placed it on the table gently, aligning it with the edge like it mattered. She told me there was something she needed me to sign before we continued. She said it was just a consent form. She said it was standard. I laughed at first, assuming it was a joke. Maybe a weird personality thing. She did not laugh back. She slid the clipboard toward me and waited. The form looked real, not something printed at home. Formatted cleanly. Paragraphs, bullet points, headers. It listed the study title, investigator, and purpose. The purpose was written in neutral language about observing interpersonal dynamics in semi-structured social settings. My name was already typed at the top. That made my stomach tighten. I scanned the page faster, then slower. It listed procedures, duration, data handling, confidentiality. Then I saw the section labeled potential side effects. Temporary confusion, emotional discomfort, altered self-perception, temporary loss of identity. I read that line 3 times, hoping my brain was misfiring. It was right there. Plain. Unemotional. Like it was listing a mild headache. I looked up at her. She watched me closely, head tilted slightly, like this part was important. She explained that it sounded scarier than it was. She said identity was flexible. She said people lost and regained it all the time without realizing. She said the wording was required. Required by who? She did not say. I asked if she was serious. She nodded. She said this was part of her work. She said the date itself was the study. She said she had already been observing since we matched. My heart started racing. I flipped through the rest of the pages. More legal language. Contact information that looked official but unfamiliar. A section explaining my right to withdraw at any time. A signature line at the bottom. I asked what would happen if I did not sign. She said then we would skip dessert. She said she would thank me for my time and log the interaction as incomplete. She said there was no pressure. That sentence felt rehearsed. I realized then how calm she was, how controlled. This was not a spontaneous thing. This was not quirky. This was a system she had used before. I pushed the clipboard back toward her. I told her I was not comfortable signing anything. My voice sounded small in the quiet restaurant. She nodded slowly like she expected that too. She did not look disappointed. She looked curious. She asked what specifically made me uncomfortable. I gestured vaguely at the form, at the loss of identity part. She said that was a common concern. She asked me how I define myself. Not casually, pointedly. She asked what parts of me felt fixed and which felt situational. She asked if I had ever felt different depending on who I was with. She asked if that meant my identity was stable or just consistent enough to feel stable. My head started to hurt. The questions felt like they were pulling at something, not violently, but persistently. Like she was loosening screws I did not know were there. The server returned with dessert menus, then paused when she saw the clipboard. There was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, like she had seen this before. That scared me more than anything else. I stood up suddenly. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. The restaurant felt too quiet, too aware of us. I told her I was leaving. She stayed seated. She said that was fine. She said withdrawal was always an option. She said she would note my response. Note my response. As I turned to leave, she said something that stopped me cold. She said that even without signing, the preliminary phase had already begun. She said the consent was for the extended portion. I did not respond. I walked out. Outside, the night air felt unreal, too sharp, too bright. I stood on the sidewalk for a minute, trying to remember how I got there. My thoughts felt scrambled, like I had just woken up from a nap and could not place the time. My phone buzzed, a message from her. She thanked me for participating. She said my resistance was informative. She said she would anonymize my data. I blocked her immediately. Then I sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel until my breathing slowed. The next day felt off. Not dramatically, just wrong in small ways. I caught myself hesitating before answering basic questions, like my name, like my preferences. Things I never questioned before suddenly felt flimsy. I told myself it was anxiety, just stress from a weird night. That afternoon I checked the app. Her profile was gone, deleted or hidden. Our chat still showed, but her name was blank. A few days later, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. No greeting, just a short message thanking me again and confirming my data had been processed. There was an attachment, a PIF. I did not open it. I deleted the email, cleared my trash, changed my passwords, tried to reset everything I could think of. Sometimes now, when someone asks me to describe myself, my mind goes blank for a second longer than it used to. Like I am checking for the right answer. Like I am making sure I am still me before I speak. I know that sounds dramatic. I know it could just be in my head, but that form was real, and she was calm in a way that only comes from repetition. I never got dessert. I knew something was wrong before I fully saw it, like my brain caught the shape of the problem before my eyes could explain it. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and the air feels heavier, like it has already been used up by something intense. That is what hit me the second I stepped into his apartment. Not fear yet, just pressure. Like I had entered the middle of a thought that had been going on for a long time without me. We matched on a Thursday night. His profile was clean and quiet. No jokes, no sarcasm, no extreme opinions. Just a few selfies and a bio that said he valued honesty and clarity. I remember thinking it sounded boring in a good way. After the mess of other dates, boring felt safe. We talked for a few days and he seemed thoughtful. Asked questions. Remembered details. Nothing off. He suggested hanging out at his place after dinner. Not immediately, not aggressively. Just said it was easier to talk somewhere quiet. I hesitated, then agreed. I told a friend where I was going. I always do that. I wish that had mattered more. His building was older but clean. Narrow hallways, soft lighting, carpet that had seen better days. He unlocked the door and stepped aside, letting me go in first. That felt polite. Normal. I kicked off my shoes and took a few steps inside. That was when I saw the walls. Every wall. Not just one, all of them. Covered from about waist height to almost the ceiling. Printed screenshots of dating app profiles. Hundreds of them. Maybe more. Arranged in rows, taped carefully, edges lined up. Faces stared back at me from every direction. Bios, photos, usernames. Some crossed out, some circled. I stopped walking without realizing it. My body froze while my brain tried to catch up. He noticed my reaction and smiled like he had been waiting for it. He said it helped him think. He said seeing patterns was easier when everything was visible. I took a few steps closer to the nearest wall. The paper was standard printer paper. Some pages were slightly curled at the corners. Others had notes scribbled on them in red marker. Arrows, underlines, short phrases written in tight handwriting. Things like inconsistent timeline, avoidance tactic, exaggerated interest, mirroring behavior. My chest tightened. I turned slowly, scanning the room. The couch was pushed against one wall, half covered by profiles. The table was barely visible. Even the hallway leading to the bedroom was lined with them, like a gallery you had to walk through. I asked him what this was. He explained calmly that he documented people. Not in a creepy way, he said, in an analytical way. He said dating apps were full of dishonesty, and he liked to understand it. He said most people did not even realize when they were being deceptive. That word made my stomach drop. I moved closer to one of the walls, reading the notes without meaning to. Some profiles had dates written next to them. Some had ratings. Some had lines drawn between them like connections. I recognized a few faces. People I had seen on the app before. People I might have swiped past. People who had no idea they were here. Then I saw mine. It was near the corner, slightly lower than the others. My profile photo printed larger than most. My bio underneath. My name clearly visible. Around it were notes in red marker, thick and aggressive compared to the others. Deception patterns written across the top. My throat went dry. Arrows pointed to my smile, labeled performative friendliness. A circle around a sentence in my bio with a note saying vague self-description. A comment next to my listed interests saying curated relatability. There were timestamps next to screenshots from our conversation. Things I said highlighted and annotated. He had printed it before we met. I asked him how long he had been doing this. He said years. He said it started as curiosity and became a system. He said he liked knowing what he was dealing with before getting involved. He said it saved time. I felt dizzy. I looked back at my profile on the wall, then at him, trying to connect the calm person I had been talking to with this room. He did not look embarrassed. He looked proud. He walked over and pointed to one of the notes. He explained how I avoided direct answers sometimes, how I used humor to deflect, how my response time changed based on topic. He said these were classic indicators. I told him he was wrong. My voice sounded thin even to me. He shook his head gently and said most people said that. He said denial was part of the pattern. I backed away slowly, heart racing. Every instinct in me screamed to leave, but I did not want to turn my back on him. I asked him why he invited me here if he already thought I was deceptive. He said he wanted to test his analysis, see if I matched the profile he built, see how I reacted to pressure. He said this was the real first date. I realized then that nothing about the night before had been casual. Every question, every pause, every reaction had been watched and logged. I was not getting to know him. I was being evaluated. I glanced for the door, calculating distance. He noticed and smiled again, softer this time. He said I was free to go whenever I wanted. He said he did not believe in forcing outcomes. That almost made it worse. I moved toward the door, trying to stay calm. As I passed another wall, I noticed something that made my stomach flip. Some profiles had dates stamped on them. Not just meeting dates. End dates. Arrows pointing to a final note written darker than the rest. I did not ask what that meant. I slipped my shoes on with shaking hands and opened the door. He stood a few feet away, not blocking me, just watching. He said he would update my notes later. He said tonight had been very informative. I left without responding. The hallway felt longer than before. The elevator took forever. I kept expecting the door to open behind me. It did not. Outside, the air hit me like a wave. I breathed in hard, trying to ground myself. My phone buzzed immediately, a message from him. He thanked me for my honesty. He said my reaction aligned with his expectations. I blocked him while walking, nearly tripping on the sidewalk. That night, I could not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my face on that wall, circled and dissected. I thought about all those other profiles, all those people who had no idea their faces were taped to a stranger's walls with notes written over them. The next day, I checked the app. His profile was still active, unchanged, calm, reasonable, probably still matching with people, still printing, still analyzing. I deleted my profile after that. Not just deactivated, deleted, wiped. I changed my photos on everything, adjusted my bios, scrubbed details I never thought twice about before. Sometimes I still wonder if my page is still up there, if he ever took it down or just added more notes. Sometimes I wonder how many walls he is now. I used to think being honest meant being open. Now I think it also means being careful about who gets to study you. The worst dates never start bad. They start normal enough that you relax, and that is what gets you. If something feels wrong right away, you leave. Easy. But when everything feels fine at first, your brain keeps making excuses long after your gut starts waving its arms. This one started like that. Calm, average, almost boring, which is why it still sticks to me in this itchy way I cannot shake. We matched on a Sunday night when I was half watching something and half scrolling. Her profile had a soft vibe, lots of neutral colors, candles, plants. Her smile looked tired but kind. Her bio mentioned healing and being intentional. I figured that meant therapy talk and maybe crystals, which I could deal with. We talked for a few days and it felt steady. Not flirty, not cold, just easy. She suggested meeting at a quiet restaurant that did small plates and low lighting. Not romantic exactly, but not loud either. She said she liked places where you could hear yourself think. That should have been my first clue, but I ignored it. I was craving something calm. I got there first and sat at a small table near the back. The place smelled like herbs and oil, the kind of smell that makes you feel like you were somewhere grown. I checked my phone, adjusted my jacket, tried to settle my nerves. When she walked in, she was carrying a bag, not a purse, something firmer, boxy. She held it with both hands like it mattered. She smiled when she saw me and walked over carefully, setting it down on the chair beside her instead of the floor. We hugged awkwardly and sat down. I tried not to stare at the bag. It was dark gray, smooth, with a simple latch. No logo, no label. It looked heavier than it should have been. She noticed me looking and told me right away what it was. She said it was her ex. Not like an ex-boyfriend in a phone sense. She meant what was left of him. She opened the bag and inside was an urn. Plain. Metal. No decorations. It caught the low light and reflected it back dull and cold. She set it gently on the table between us, like a centerpiece. I froze. My brain tried to laugh it off, tried to turn it into something quirky. Maybe a joke. Maybe an art project. But the way she handled it was careful and serious. This was not a joke. She explained that he passed a couple years ago, sudden. Complicated. She said they never really broke up, just changed forms. She said bringing him along helped her feel grounded. She asked if it was okay that he joined us. I did not know how to answer. Everything in me wanted to leave, but my mouth said something polite and neutral. I told myself I did not want to be rude. I told myself people grieve differently. I told myself I could handle one weird thing. The server came over and did a double take at the urn, then recovered fast. She ordered for herself and then paused, looking at the urn. She ordered something small for him too. Just in case, she said. The server nodded like this was not the strangest thing they had seen all week. The conversation tried to move forward, but it felt like walking with a limp. Every topic circled back to him. Stories about trips they took. Jokes he used to make. Habits he had. She spoke about him in present tense without noticing. When I talked about myself, she listened, but her eyes kept drifting to the urn like she was checking in. At some point, she asked me to talk to him. Not in a dramatic way, just casually. She said he liked to feel included and sometimes got jealous if ignored. She said it made things smoother if everyone acknowledged him. My chest felt tight. I laughed softly and said I was not sure what to say. She suggested I just introduce myself. Say a few things about who I was and what my intentions were. Intentions. That word made my skin crawl. I leaned back in my chair, suddenly very aware of how trapped I felt. The restaurant was quiet. Tables spaced out. Nobody close enough to overhear. I felt like I was in a bubble with her and that urn and no script. I said a few awkward sentences into the space above the table, not looking directly at it. My voice sounded wrong in my own ears. She watched me closely, nodding slightly like she was taking notes. She thanked me after genuinely. She said that meant a lot to him. She rested her hand on the urn for a second, fingers lingering. It felt intimate in a way I was not supposed to see. The food came. The plate she ordered for him sat untouched. She did not move it. She said he was not hungry tonight. She pushed it slightly closer to me instead, like offering. I declined. As the night went on, she started comparing us. Little comments at first. How I held my fork differently. How my laugh was quieter. How I did not interrupt as much. She said he used to interrupt. She said she liked that I did not. She asked how I handled conflict. She said he used to avoid it. I started to feel like I was on trial. Not with her, but with someone else. Someone who was not there but very much present. I wondered how many times she had done this. How many dates sat across from that urn, trying to measure up to someone frozen in time. At one point, she leaned in and whispered that he was warming up to me, that he thought I was respectful, that it might be good for her. The way she said it made my stomach flip. Not relief. Fear. I checked the time and told her I needed to go soon. She looked disappointed but understanding. She said first meetings could be overwhelming. She said he had been nervous too. Nervous. When the check came, she insisted on splitting it 3 ways. She calculated it carefully, including the dish ordered for him. She slid a few bills out of her wallet and placed one near the urn. Standing up to leave felt unreal. She carefully placed the urn back into the bag, securing it like something fragile. Before we parted, she asked if I would be open to seeing her again. She said second dates were usually easier once everyone knew each other. I said I needed to think about it. That was the most honest thing I could manage. On the way home, my phone buzzed. A message from her. She said she appreciated how kind I was. She said he liked me. She said that mattered. I did not reply. Later that night, curiosity and dread mixed together, and I checked the app. Her profile was still active. Scrolling through, I noticed something I missed before. One of her photos showed the same urn sitting on a windowsill in the background. Another showed it on a shelf behind her. It had always been there. I blocked her without another thought. For weeks after, I replayed that night, not in a dramatic way, just small moments. The way she ordered for him. The way she asked me to speak to him. The way she watched my face while I did. I realized the date was never about me. It was about seeing if I fit into a space already occupied. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I stayed longer, if I agreed to a second date, if I kept talking to someone who could never leave. I noticed it before I realized I noticed it. That sounds dumb, but it is the only way I can explain it. Like my brain clocked something off and filed it away before letting me feel weird about it. We were sitting across from each other at a small table by the window, lights from passing cars sliding over the glass, and he was staring at my hands. Not in a quick glance way, in a focused, studying way, like he was trying to memorize them. We matched earlier that week. His profile looked harmless. Soft smile, clean clothes, nothing intense. His bio was short and vague, said he liked quiet nights and details people ignored. I thought that meant he was observant in a normal way. Maybe artistic. Maybe thoughtful. I have learned that words like that can mean anything. We met at a late-night dessert place. Not a bar, not dinner. Somewhere neutral. The kind of spot people go when they do not want to commit to a long date. It smelled like sugar and burnt espresso. Sticky tables. Low music, people talking quietly like they were tired of their own voices. He complimented my hands almost immediately. Said they looked careful. That they moved gently. I laughed it off. Made a joke about biting my nails when I was stressed. He shook his head and said no, they were deliberate. That was his word. Deliberate. I started noticing how often he brought them up. When I picked up my fork. When I pushed my plate aside. When I rested my fingers on the table. Every movement got a comment. Not gross. Not flirty in the usual way. More analytical. Like he was describing an object he found interesting. I asked him why hands mattered so much to him. He shrugged and said they told you everything you needed to know. He said people could lie with their faces but not with their hands. He said hands remembered things even when the rest of the body forgot. That made my skin crawl a little, but I told myself I was being dramatic. Some people are just intense about weird topics. At least he was not boring. As the night went on, I became painfully aware of my own hands. I kept them folded in my lap. Then I felt awkward about that and put them back on the table. I could feel his eyes track them every time they moved. I tried to focus on the conversation instead. He talked about his job. Something quiet and repetitive. He liked routines. He liked noticing patterns. He said patterns made the world make sense. He asked if I got manicures often. That question felt too specific. I said sometimes. Not often. Just when I felt like it. He nodded slowly and leaned back, like that answer confirmed something. He talked about nail salons, about how people relax there, how they trusted strangers with sharp tools near their skin. He said it was interesting how many people felt safest when they were distracted. He said that was when they were most vulnerable. He said it like an observation, not a warning. I felt my chest tighten. I checked the time on my phone. Not late, but late enough to leave without it being weird. I told myself I would finish my drink and then go. He reached across the table suddenly, stopping short of touching me, and asked if he could see my hands closer. I pulled them back without thinking and laughed awkwardly. He apologized immediately, hands up, said he did not mean to make me uncomfortable. He said he just liked symmetry. I noticed his own hands then, long fingers, nails trimmed short. No rings, no scars. They were very still, resting flat on the table. He barely moved them when he talked. The place started to empty out. Chairs scraping, lights dimming slightly, the staff cleaning around us. He did not seem to notice. He was still focused, still asking questions about how I used my hands during the day. Typing, cooking, opening doors. Everything felt suddenly too specific, like my body was being broken down into parts instead of being seen as a whole person. When we stood up to leave, he watched how I put on my jacket, how I adjusted my sleeves. He smiled in a way that made my stomach flip, not because it was creepy exactly, but because it felt private, like he was enjoying a thought I was not allowed to hear. Outside, the street was quiet. The air felt cool against my skin. I felt relief just being out of that space. We stood awkwardly for a second, deciding how to end things. I was already planning to say goodnight and walk away fast. That was when he said it, casually, like an afterthought. He asked if I had ever noticed how many people went missing after manicures. My brain stalled. I laughed at first because that is what I do when I do not know how else to react. He did not laugh. He looked genuinely curious, head tilted slightly, waiting for an answer. He explained that it was a pattern he had been tracking. Articles, reports, local news. He said there were clusters, neighborhoods where it happened more often, times of year when it spiked. He said hands were the common factor. That was when I felt fear properly settle in my chest, heavy and cold. I asked what he meant by tracking. He said he liked data. He said it helped him understand risk. He said most people never noticed until it was too late. I told him I needed to go. I did not wait for a response. I turned and walked away, heart pounding, every nerve screaming at me to put distance between us. I did not run, though my steps were fast and uneven. Halfway down the block, my phone buzzed. A message from him. He said he hoped he did not scare me. He said he just thought it was interesting. He said my hands were memorable. I blocked him before I reached my car. When I got home, I washed my hands like I had touched something dirty. I scrubbed until my skin felt raw. I sat on my bed and tried to slow my breathing. My mind replayed every moment of the date, every comment, every look. Things I ignored now felt obvious. The way he never looked at my face when he talked about my hands. The way he leaned forward slightly whenever they were visible. Curiosity got the better of me later that night. I searched online. Missing persons manicure. Salon disappearances. I expected nothing. Maybe a coincidence or two. Instead, I found forums. Threads. People speculating. Connecting dots that might not exist. Or might. I did not know what to believe. What scared me was not whether it was true. It was that he believed it was. That he had spent time thinking about it. Tracking it. Watching for it. The next day, I checked the app. His profile was still active. His bio unchanged. Photos the same. Normal. Approachable. No mention of hands. I booked a manicure appointment for the following week and canceled it an hour later for no real reason. My hands rested in my lap as I did it, fingers curled slightly inward like they were trying to hide. Sometimes now when someone compliments my hands, even casually, my stomach tightens. I think about patterns. About people who watch too closely. About how something as simple as a compliment can feel like a threat if it is coming from the wrong place. I never saw him again. But every time I pass a nail salon late at night, lights still on, chairs empty, I think about that question and how calmly he asked it, like he already knew the answer. I did not think much of the phone at first, and that is the part that makes me feel stupid now. It was already in her hand when she walked up, camera facing outward, screen glowing like a tiny flashlight. I assumed she was checking directions or sending the last message. People are always holding their phones. It's basically an extension of the hand at this point. Nothing about it felt threatening. Not yet. We matched 2 days earlier. Her profile felt intentional. Not polished, but focused. Her photos were all taken from similar angles, similar lighting, like she knew exactly how she wanted to be seen. Her bio talked about safety and boundaries and being careful with strangers. I respected that. I thought it was smart. After a short back and forth, she suggested meeting at an outdoor plaza with food trucks and benches. Public, open, lots of people around. It sounded reasonable. When we met, she smiled and told me she recorded all her first dates. She said it helped her feel safe. She said it was non-negotiable. She held up her phone slightly, showing me the camera app already open. I hesitated for half a second, then shrugged it off. I figured plenty of places have cameras anyway. I told myself I had nothing to hide. The plaza was busy. Music playing softly from somewhere. Kids running around. A smell of fried food and sugar in the air. She kept the phone angled so it caught both of us, adjusting it whenever we moved. She did not hide it. If anything, she made sure I noticed. That made it feel less creepy somehow, like transparency made it okay. We grabbed food and sat on a low wall near a planter. She asked normal questions at first. Work, hobbies, how long I had lived in the area. She laughed at the right moments. Nodded along. The phone stayed steady in her hand, lens always watching. I caught myself sitting up straighter, choosing words more carefully. It felt like being interviewed without being told you were. As the date went on, her questions shifted. Not dramatic, just sharper. She asked how I handled rejection. How I reacted when plans changed suddenly. How people love each other on a first date. Each question felt like it had a right answer. I tried to stay honest without saying anything that could be twisted. Every now and then she glanced at the screen, not at me. Checking framing. Checking sound. I realized she was not really watching me. She was watching the recording. After about an hour, she said she had enough footage. Footage. That word stuck with me. She thanked me for understanding and said she would review it later. Review it. Like it was an assignment. We said goodbye politely. No hug. No promise to meet again. She walked away still holding the phone up, still recording until she disappeared into the crowd. I remember standing there for a second, feeling oddly drained, like I had just taken a test I did not study for. That night, I felt off. Not scared, just unsettled. I replayed the date in my head, wondering if I had said something wrong. I checked my messages. Nothing from her. I told myself she was busy reviewing the video. I tried to laugh at that thought. It did not work. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a notification from a friend. He asked if that was me in a video going around. My stomach dropped. I asked what he meant. He sent a link. It led to a social media page I had never seen before. The profile picture was blank. No name. Just a bio that said documenting patterns. Pinned at the top was a video titled Men Who Almost Made It. I did not want to click it. My finger hovered over the screen for a long time. Then I did. It was the date. Our date. Edited. The video started with her walking up to me. My confused smile frozen mid-second. There was text overlaid explaining the context. First meeting. Public place. Consent to record obtained. The footage cut between moments I remembered and moments I did not. Pauses stretched longer. Expressions slowed down. Captions popped up pointing out things I never noticed. My hands fidgeting. My eyes looking away while thinking. My tone shifting slightly when answering certain questions. There was commentary. Not spoken, just text. Analyzing. Interpreting. Assigning meaning. She labeled moments as yellow flags. Potential issues. Things to monitor. The worst part was the end. The video faded out with text explaining why I did not make it. Something about inconsistency. About answers not aligning perfectly. About intuition. The comments were full of strangers dissecting me. People arguing over whether I was dangerous or just awkward. Some defended me. Others said the signs were obvious. Nobody knew me. Nobody cared. I was just content. I felt exposed in a way I did not know was possible. Not because I had done anything terrible, but because everything about me had been flattened into evidence. Context tripped away. Jokes cut short. Pauses made suspicious. I messaged her immediately asking her to take it down. She replied hours later, calm and measured. She said the recordings were for safety and education. She said she anonymized me. She said I should be proud I almost made it. Almost. I reported the video. So did my friend. So did others. It stayed up. Apparently it did not violate any rules. It was filmed in public. I had agreed to be recorded. My face was visible, but no name was attached. Technically, I had consented. The account had dozens of videos. Different men. Different dates, same format, same tone. Some videos were shorter, some longer. Some titled Why We Left Early. Some titled Red Flags Caught on Tape. Mine sat somewhere in the middle, not the worst, not the best. I stopped going out for a while after that. Every time I saw someone holding up a phone, my chest tightened. I became hyper aware of how I sat, how I spoke, how long I paused before answering. It felt like the whole world was one big recording session. A week later, the video was still up. It had more views, more comments. Someone had clipped a part of it and shared it elsewhere. I recognized my own voice talking about boundaries, slowed down, replayed, mocked. I made my accounts private, changed my photos, asked friends not to tag me in anything. I felt like I was shrinking, pulling myself inward to avoid being captured again. One night, scrolling out of habit, I saw a new upload on that page. Different guy, different place, same title format. Men who almost made it. I did not watch it. I did not need to. What scared me most was how calm she was about it all, how justified, how certain. She did not see herself as cruel or invasive. She saw herself as careful, as helpful, as someone doing the work others were too afraid to do. I still wonder how many people saw that video, how many recognized me, how many decided who I was based on edited clips and captions. I never agreed to be a lesson. I agreed to a date. The first thing I noticed was the bag. Not his face, not his voice, not the place we met. The bag. It was sitting at his feet like it had been placed there on purpose, zipped, upright, almost proud of itself. It was not a gym bag or a backpack. It was one of those flat garment bags people use for weddings or job interviews, the kind you do not casually bring to dinner. I remember thinking I was tired and maybe seeing things wrong. I was not. I had almost canceled that date. Nothing dramatic, just the usual lack of energy. His profile was fine but forgettable. A few photos, all indoors, all clean. His bio mentioned liking routines and being prepared. That sounded mature of the time. After so many chaotic matches, someone who planned ahead felt refreshing. We talked for a couple days. Nothing intense. When he suggested dinner at a mid-range place near the river, I agreed. I got there first and sat outside. The place had those metal tables that wobble no matter how you adjust them. Lights strung overhead, traffic noise mixing with music from inside. I was scrolling on my phone when he arrived. He waved, smiled, and sat down. That was when I saw the bag. It was tucked neatly next to his chair, not shoved aside, like it was part of him. I asked if he had just come from work. He said no. He said he always brought a backup outfit on first dates. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. He did not laugh back. He leaned down and unzipped the bag just enough to show me what was inside. An identical outfit. Same shirt, same pants, same jacket. Even the same shoes, folded and wrapped carefully. He explained it calmly. If something happened to the outfit he was wearing, he would change. Simple. I asked what kind of thing he meant. He said last time there was a fire. The way he said it was casual, like mentioning traffic or bad weather. No pause. No emotion. Just a fact. I waited for more. An explanation. A punchline. None came. We ordered food. He placed his order quickly, confidently, like he had already decided days ago. He kept the bag closed the entire time. When a server walked by too close, he nudged it farther under the table with his foot, eyes tracking it like it might move on its own. I tried to steer the conversation toward normal topics, work, hobbies, shows. He answered politely but briefly, and circled back to preparedness. He talked about exits, about knowing where things were located in every building he entered, about how most people did not pay attention until it was too late. I asked about the fire. I did not mean to. It just slipped out. He explained that it happened on a date. Different city. Different restaurant. Something in the kitchen went wrong. Alarms. Smoke. Confusion. He said everyone panicked. He did not. He said he stayed calm because he had planned for variables. He told me his clothes caught smoke damage. Not burns, just smoke. He said the smell stayed for weeks. He said it ruined the rest of the night. That was why he brought a backup now. I looked at him, trying to read his face. He did not look traumatized. He did not look scared. He looked satisfied, like he had solved a problem and was proud of the solution. The food came. Halfway through eating, a car backfired on the street. Loud. Sharp. He flinched hard. His chair scraped loudly against the ground as he stood up halfway, eyes darting around. His hand went straight to the zipper of the bag. Everyone nearby looked over. I felt my face heat up. He froze, then slowly sat back down, adjusting his jacket like nothing happened. He apologized quietly and said reflex. I asked if he wanted to leave. He shook his head. He said this place was fine. He said he had already checked the exits. That made my chest tighten. I looked around for the first time since sitting down. I noticed the narrow walkway between tables, the heater units, the candles, the way the fabric canopy hung low overhead. Things I never noticed before suddenly felt wrong. He noticed me noticing. He smiled and said most fires started small. I pushed my plate away. My appetite was gone. I told him I needed some air. He nodded and stood up again, carefully lifting the garment bag with both hands like it was fragile. He did not leave it at the table. Outside, the night air felt heavy. He stood close to the wall, scanning the street. He pointed out where the nearest hydrant was, where emergency vehicles would come from, how long it would take them to arrive based on traffic patterns. I told him I was uncomfortable. I tried to keep my voice steady. He frowned, genuinely confused. He said he thought I would appreciate someone who planned ahead. He said people got hurt because they assumed things would be fine. I told him I wanted to go home. He nodded. No argument. No anger. He reached for the zipper again and opened the bag fully this time. The spare outfit was pristine. Tags still on some pieces. He explained he rotated them so they aged evenly. That way, neither set felt unfamiliar if he had to switch. That word again. Had to. I stepped back. The streetlight caught the fabric inside the bag, making it glow slightly. I had the sudden, awful thought that he was not preparing for accidents. He was preparing for repetition. I walked away without saying anything else. I did not look back. I did not want to see him standing there with that bag ready. On the way home, my phone buzzed. A message from him. He said he understood I needed time. He said preparedness could be intimidating at first. He said if I wanted to try again, he knew a place with fewer risk factors. I blocked him before I reached my door. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched his name online. It took a while, but I found a local news article from a few years back. A restaurant fire. No injuries. One patron interviewed. Praise for staying calm and assisting others. The photo showed a man standing on the sidewalk, holding the garment bag. The caption mentioned how lucky he was to have a change of clothes. I slept with my window cracked open that night, even though it was cold. I needed air. Ever since then, whenever I see someone carrying a bag that does not match where they are going, my stomach tightens. Sometimes being prepared is not about safety. Sometimes it is about expecting the same thing to happen again. I still remember the exact moment my stomach dropped, and it was not during the date. It was hours later, laying on my bed, lights off, phone in my hand, doing that useless late night scrolling you do when you are too tired to sleep but too tired to think. Everything felt normal right up until it did not, and the scary part is how clean the switch was. No buildup, no warning, just a sudden understanding that something had already happened without me knowing. I matched with her on a random weekday afternoon. I was bored at work, half paying attention to emails, half swiping out of habit. Her profile stood out because it felt calm. No jokes trying too hard, no dramatic captions. Just a few photos, mostly outdoors, and a bio that mentioned volunteering and liking quiet places. It felt safe. That word gets me now. We talked that evening. The conversation flowed easily. She asked thoughtful questions, remembered my answers, followed up in ways that felt flattering. Not many people do that. She suggested meeting the next day for a short walk and coffee near a medical complex downtown. She said she liked that area because it felt organized and calm. I did not think anything of it. The date itself was fine. Normal. Almost forgettable. We walked, grabbed drinks, sat on a bench for a bit. She smiled a lot and listened closely. Maybe too closely, but I brushed that off as interest. She asked what I did for work, where I grew up, if I had any allergies. That one stuck out slightly, but again, people ask weird things sometimes. Then she started asking about my blood type. At first, it felt random, like a trivia question. I laughed it off and said I was not sure. She nodded but did not drop it. She asked if I had ever donated blood, if I remembered what they told me, if I had any paperwork from physicals. She said it mattered because compatibility was important to her. She did not explain what kind. I felt a flicker of discomfort. The setting felt public and harmless. People walked by constantly. Ambulances passed in the distance. I told myself I was overthinking. I eventually told her what I thought my blood type was, with a disclaimer that I could be wrong. She smiled and seemed satisfied. She asked more questions after that, about my health history, surgeries, medications, whether I fainted easily, whether I had ever needed stitches. The questions were calm, evenly spaced, woven into other topics so smoothly it almost worked. Almost. When the date ended, it felt polite and complete. No awkward pause. No pressure to extend it. We hugged briefly and went separate ways. I remember feeling neutral about it. Not excited. Not alarmed. Just done. That night, while laying in bed, my phone buzzed with a notification I did not recognize. It was from a health app I barely used. I opened it, annoyed, expecting some generic reminder. Instead, I saw a confirmation message about my emergency contact being updated. My name was listed as the patient. Her name was listed as the contact. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I sat up and scrolled, hands shaking. The app showed the associated facility, a nearby hospital, the same one across the street from where we had coffee. I never added her. I never gave consent. I barely even used that app. I stared at the screen, trying to make it make sense. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe I clicked something by accident, but the timestamp matched earlier that day, right around the time we were sitting on that bench. I checked my email. There was a confirmation message there too, polite, official, thanking me for updating my emergency information. It listed her full name and phone number. I felt sick. I went back through my phone, checking permissions, settings, anything that might explain it. Then I remembered. Earlier that day while ordering coffee, my phone had died. She offered to let me scan the payment code on her phone and sign in briefly to my account to get points. It felt harmless. I logged in, paid, logged out. At least I thought I did. I realized then how much access that gave her. How many things stayed signed in. How many apps shared data quietly in the background. I messaged her, trying to keep my tone calm, asking if she knew anything about the emergency contact update. She replied quickly. Too quickly. She said yes. She said she took care of it for me. She said it was important to be prepared. She said hospitals moved faster when someone was already on file. My chest tightened. I asked why she would do that. She said she'd like to plan ahead. She said she worked better when variables were reduced. She said she already knew my blood type anyway, so it made sense. That part hit me hard. I had never confirmed it. I had only guessed. She sent another message explaining she volunteered with patient intake sometimes. She knew the system. She knew how often people came in without contacts listed. She said she hated seeing delays. She said she did not want that for me. I blocked her immediately. On the app, on my phone. Everywhere I could think of. Then I contacted the hospital. That process took forever. Transfers, holds, repeating myself, explaining why I did not want a stranger listed as my emergency contact. The person on the line sounded confused, but concerned enough to help. They removed her. They told me to change my passwords. They told me to review my account activity. They told me to come in if I wanted to double-check everything in person. I did not sleep that night. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. I kept thinking about how easily she did it, how confident she was, how she asked those questions like she was filling out a form. The next morning, I checked the app out of curiosity. Her profile was gone, deleted or hidden. Our chat was still there, but her name was grayed out. I scrolled back through the conversation, noticing things I ignored before. How she asked about my location services. How she mentioned liking systems in order. How she said she trusted data more than people. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail from the hospital. Standard paperwork. Nothing alarming. But at the bottom was a note saying my emergency contact had recently been updated and confirmed. Confirmed. That word stayed with me. I moved my health apps behind passwords after that. Changed settings I did not even know existed. I stopped giving my phone to people, even friends. I stopped answering health questions casually. Sometimes when I pass that area downtown and see ambulances pulling in, I think about how close it all felt, how easy it was for her, how the date itself was the least important part of the whole thing. It was not about getting to know me. It was about filing me away correctly. The thing that still gets me is how normal I felt walking in. Like I was just doing another routine task, grabbing food with someone I barely knew, already planning what I would say if it got awkward. I had no warning feeling, no bed alarm. That almost makes it worse, because I usually catch weird vibes early. This time, nothing. Just hunger and mild curiosity and the smell of frying oil drifting out onto the sidewalk. We matched a few days earlier. His profile was oddly specific in a boring way. Listed routines, preferred times to eat, favorite grocery store, things like that. It felt organized, almost comforting. He said he liked structure. I liked that too, or at least I thought I did. After a couple days of messaging, he suggested dinner. Not a fancy place, just a casual spot that served bowls and wraps and whatever you felt like putting together. I agreed and even offered to order for both of us since I was getting there first. I arrived early and grabbed a small table near the wall. The place was bright, loud, and smelled like garlic and citrus. I stood in line, scanning the menu, thinking about what he might like based on what he had mentioned liking before. I ordered something simple for myself and something similar for him. Nothing risky, nothing messy. I paid, got the receipt, and sat down with 2 trays. He showed up right on time. Not early, not late. Exactly on time. He walked straight to the table like he already knew where I was sitting. He nodded, sat down, and immediately looked at the food. Not at me, just the food. That was when the shift happened. He stared at the tray meant for him for a few seconds too long. Then he pushed it slightly away with one finger, careful not to touch it too much. He told me he would not eat it. Not because he did not like it. Not because he was not hungry. Because he had rules. I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. He did not laugh back. His face stayed serious, eyes focused, like this was a policy he followed daily. He explained that he did not ingest food from women until the 3rd date. Not prepared by. Not ordered by. Not handed to him. Ingest was the word he used. That alone made my stomach twist. I asked him what he meant, still trying to keep things light. He explained it slowly, like I was the one being weird. He said food was intimate. Food crossed boundaries. Food could be used to control people. He said he learned that the hard way. He did not explain how. Then he reached into his bag. He pulled out a clear Ziploc bag and placed it on the table between us. Inside were raw mushrooms, not the nice clean packaged ones from a store. These looked uneven, dirt still clinging to the stems, caps slightly cracked. They smelled earthy and sharp, cutting through the restaurant air. He opened the bag and started eating them, just like that. No plate, no napkin. Chewing slowly, deliberately, eyes occasionally flicking up to watch my reaction. People around us started to notice. Not in a dramatic way. Just glances. Double takes. Someone at the next table leaned back slightly. I felt heat creep out my neck. I did not know what to say. My brain was stuck between laughing and leaving. He explained between bites that these were safe, that he sourced them himself, that he trusted them because he controlled the entire process. He said trust had to be earned in layers. First location, then conversation, then food, then other things he did not explain. I looked down at the untouched tray in front of him, steam still rising. Suddenly, it felt embarrassing, like I had crossed a line without knowing it. I pulled the tray closer to myself, unsure what else to do. The rest of the day did not get better. He asked questions, but not in a curious way. More like a checklist. He asked about my schedule, my eating habits, my allergies, my past illnesses. When I tried to steer the conversation to lighter topics, he redirected it back. He kept eating mushrooms until the bag was empty, then folded it neatly and put it back in his bag. I noticed his hands. They were stained slightly brown, dirt under the nails. He wiped them on his pants, then rested them on the table. He did not seem bothered by the mess. I was. He mentioned that most women did not get a second date, not because they did anything wrong, just because they pushed too hard. He said patience was rare. He said he was testing mine right now. That word again. testing. I started to feel like I was not on a date at all, like I was sitting for some kind of evaluation I did not sign up for. I tried to end things politely, saying I had to head out. He nodded like he expected that too. He did not argue. He did not look disappointed. He just reached into his bag again and pulled out another Ziploc. This one had notes inside. Handwritten, names, dates, short observations, things like respected boundary, questioned food rule, laughed when uncomfortable. My name was already written at the bottom with today's date next to it. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly against the floor. Heads turned. I grabbed my bag and left without looking back. Outside, the air felt thick and warm. I leaned against the wall, heart racing, trying to calm down. My phone buzzed almost immediately, a message from him. Then another. Then another. All calm, all methodical, thanking me for my time, noting my reactions, saying he would consider whether I was compatible enough to proceed. I blocked him while standing there, right then, no hesitation. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me and I checked the app from a friend's phone. His profile was still up, recently active. The bio had been updated slightly. It now mentioned dietary boundaries and respect for personal ingestion rules. I did not sleep well that night. Every time I thought about that bag of mushrooms, the way he ate them like it was nothing, my stomach tightened. It was not just the food. It was the confidence. The certainty that his rules mattered more than social norms, more than comfort, more than basic decency. A week later, I had a message request from an unknown number. It was a photo, a Ziploc bag on a table. Inside, a meal from that same restaurant. Neatly packed. Untouched. The caption said third date eligible. I deleted the message without replying, blocked the number, changed my privacy settings. For a while after that, I avoided ordering food for anyone else, even friends, even family. The idea of crossing someone else's invisible rules made my chest feel tight. Sometimes I still think about how close I was to just brushing it off, to laughing it away and staying longer. I think about that list in his bag and how many names might be on it now. I did not realize how quiet my apartment was until that night. Not peaceful quiet, just empty. The kind where every little sound feels bigger than it should. The fridge clicking on, pipes knocking, my phone buzzing on the desk. I remember thinking it felt good to finally be home, shoes off, hoodie tossed on the chair, brain still half replaying the date like background noise. Nothing felt wrong yet. That part still messes with me the most. I met her that afternoon after matching the week before. The app felt stale lately, same faces, same bios, so when she popped up it felt like a small reset. Her photos looked normal, maybe too normal. Coffee shops, sidewalks, a messy room in the background of one picture. Her messages were casual and slightly awkward in a way I found comforting. She suggested meeting near my place since she said she liked walking around unfamiliar neighborhoods. I did not think twice about that at the time. We met at a little food spot in the corner that always smells like burnt bread and sugar. The kind of place where nobody stays long. She showed up on time, which already put her ahead of most people. She smiled a lot, but not in a forced way. Everything about her felt easy. Conversation flowed without effort. We talked about dumb stuff, bad shows, places we wanted to go but never actually planned. Nothing heavy. Nothing personal enough to regret later. After eating, we walked for a bit, just up and down a few streets. The sun was starting to drop and everything had that soft early evening look. She noticed things most people ignore. Cracked sidewalks, weird mailboxes, lights left on in empty rooms. She asked questions about the area, about how long I had been there, what it was like to live alone. I answered without thinking, I always do. When we said goodnight, it felt clean. No awkward hovering, no pressure, just a normal ending. She waved and walked off in the opposite direction. I watched her for a second until she blended into the crowd, then went inside my building. The rest of the night was boring. I showered, changed, scrolled on my phone. I read a few messages from friends, half replied, then gave up. I remember checking my locks before bed like I always do. Front door, bedroom window, bathroom window. Everything was fine. I set my phone on the charger and passed out faster than usual. The first buzz woke me up. Not the alarm, just a notification. My room was dark except for the blue glow of my phone screen. I squinted at it, still half asleep. A message from her. The preview showed an image icon. I assumed it was a meme or something random from earlier. I opened it. It was me. Not a selfie. Not a reflection. A photo taken from a few feet away, angled slightly down. I was asleep on my bed, turned toward the wall, blanket pulled up to my chest. My hair was messy, my face relaxed. The room looked exactly how it did when I fell asleep. I sat straight up so fast my head spun. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stared at the screen, then around the room, like the picture might still be happening. My door was closed. My window was closed. Everything looked the same. Too normal. Another image came through. Same angle. Different moment. My arm had shifted. The blanket moved. These were not quick snaps. They were taken over time. Then the text came in under the photos. She said it looked peaceful after I said goodnight. No emojis. No explanation. Just that. My hands started shaking. I dropped the phone on the bed like it burned me. My brain tried to catch up, throwing excuses at me that made no sense. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe the photos were edited. Maybe someone else took them. None of it worked. I recognized my room too well. The scratch on the dresser. The way the light from the street lamp leaked through the blinds. I grabbed my phone again and checked the timestamps. Early morning, minutes apart. Taken while I was asleep. I got out of bed and turned on every light. I checked the closet, the bathroom, under the bed. Nothing. No sign of anyone. My windows were locked from the inside. The door showed no damage. My chest felt tight, like I could not get a full breath. I texted her back asking what this was. I tried to keep it calm. My phone showed she was typing almost immediately, then stopped. Then typing again. Then stopped. The dots disappeared. Nothing came through. I checked the app. Her profile was still there. Active. Same photos. Same bio. I scrolled through our chat history, rereading everything with new eyes. Little comments about my place. How quiet it must be. How she liked rooms where people felt safe enough to sleep deeply. Things I brushed off before now felt heavy and wrong. Another message came in. Another photo. This one was closer. My face filled more of the frame. The angle suggested whoever took it was standing right next to my bed. I felt sick. I did not sleep after that. I sat on the edge of my bed until the sky started to lighten, foam clutched in my hand, jumping at every sound. I kept thinking I heard movement in the hallway outside of my apartment. Footsteps. A door opening. Nothing ever followed. When morning came, I checked my front door. Still locked. No marks. I checked the hallway camera footage through the building app. Nothing unusual overnight. Nobody entered my floor during that time window. That somehow made it worse. I messaged her again, telling her to explain. She replied hours later like nothing was wrong. She said she just wanted to remember the night. She said she did not want to wake me. She said she had always been curious what people looked like when they finally relaxed. I blocked her immediately. On the app. On my phone. Everywhere I could think of. I reported the profile, attached the screenshots, explained everything. I changed my locks that same day. It cost $180 and felt like nothing compared to the panic sitting in my chest. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. I barely talked. I just sat there, phone face down, replaying every second of the date, every step we took, every glance she made toward my building. I realized she never asked for my address directly. She did not need to. A few days later, a message request popped up from an unknown number. No text, just an image. It was my bedroom again, but empty. My bed made, lights off, taken from the same angle as before. The timestamp said it was from that morning. I moved out a week later. I did not wait for the lease to end. I packed fast, left furniture behind, slept with the lights on in my new place for months. Sometimes when my phone buzzes late at night, my stomach drops before my brain catches up. I still think about how calm she was, how normal the date felt, how good night did not mean what I thought it did. There are some days that stick to your brain in a gross way, not because anything huge happened, but because something small went wrong and your body noticed before your brain did. This was one of those days. It started normal, boring even. I was running late, my hair still damp, phone at 10%, already annoyed at myself for agreeing to meet a stranger before noon. I remember thinking coffee dates were supposed to be easy. Quick exit. Public place. No pressure. I had no reason to think this one would be any different. His profile had been fine. Not exciting, not scary. A couple mirror photos, one outside shot that looked like it was taken on a walk. His bio was short, said he liked quiet mornings and strong coffee. No jokes, no red flags, nothing dramatic. We matched late at night and talked until I fell asleep with my phone on my chest. He typed fast. Too fast maybe, but I ignored that. When he asked to meet the next morning, I agreed without thinking too hard. The coffee shop was one of those places that always smells burnt no matter what you order. Exposed brick walls, chalkboard menu, music playing just a little too loud. I got there early and sat near the window so I could see him coming. I like knowing what I am walking into. When he walked in, I recognized him immediately. Same face, same posture. He spotted me and waved, then sat down across from me. That was when I noticed it. His eyes. He was looking straight at me. Not glancing, not shifting, not blinking. At first, I thought it was just nerves. Some people lock eye contact when they are anxious. I smiled, looked down at my cup, and back up. His eyes were still open, still fixed on mine. No blink, not even a twitch. We ordered drinks. He did not look at the menu. He did not look at the barista. His head turned, but his eyes stayed wide, like he was forcing them to stay open. It made my skin crawl in a way I could not explain yet. I took a sip of my coffee just to give myself something to do. Minutes passed. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. It is hard to tell when you are uncomfortable. He talked about his job, his routine, his sleep schedule. His voice was calm, measured, like he had practiced what to say. The whole time, his eyes stayed open. No blinking. Not once. I started counting without meaning to. Every second felt louder than the last. I asked him if he was okay. I tried to make it casual, like a joke. That was when he explained it. He said he had trained himself not to blink during conversations so people would trust him more. He said blinking made people think you were hiding something. He said he did not want me to think he was lying. The way he said it was flat, proud, even, like this was an accomplishment. My stomach dropped. My brain tried to laugh it off, but my body was already tense. I nodded slowly, pretending that made sense. His eyes were watering now, red around the edges, but he still refused to blink. Tears gathered but did not fall. It was one of the most unsettling things I have ever seen. I started noticing other things after that. How he mirrored my posture a second too late. How he repeated phrases I had used earlier. How he asked questions that felt slightly off, like he was following a script. He remembered everything I said, down to tiny details I had already forgotten mentioning. When I shifted in my seat, he shifted too. When I picked up my cup, he did the same, even though his was still full. The coffee shop felt smaller, louder. I became aware of every sound. Cups clinking, milk steaming, someone laughing too hard at the counter. I checked my phone, hoping for an excuse to leave. No notifications, no escape. His eyes finally blinked after what felt like forever. Just once, slow and deliberate. He smiled like he had passed a test. Then he leaned forward and lowered his voice slightly, even though there was no one close enough to hear. He told me he had practiced this for months, in mirrors, in videos, on strangers. He said people lied with their eyes, and he wanted to be different. I felt my heart pounding. I wanted to leave, but I did not want to trigger something. I kept thinking about how carefully he had planned this. How much time went into learning how to seem honest without actually being normal? I wondered what else he practiced. He mentioned he had read a lot about body language, books, forums, old blog posts. He talked about tells and patterns like he was studying for an exam. He said most people were predictable if you watched them long enough. That word, watched, stuck with me. I asked him what he was looking for on the app. He answered instantly. He said he wanted someone consistent, someone who did not change suddenly, someone easy to understand. The way he said it made me feel like a puzzle piece he was trying to force into place. I noticed his hands then. They were clenched in his lap, nails digging into his palms. His whole body was tense, like holding still took effort. His eyes started watering again, but he still would not blink. I realized he was hurting himself just to keep this up. That scared me more than anything else. I stood up slowly, pretending I needed the bathroom. He stood up too, immediately. Same timing, same movement. I told him I would be right back. He sat down again, eyes never leaving me as I walked away. In the bathroom, I locked myself in a stall and tried to breathe. My hands were shaking. I looked at my reflection in my phone camera and barely recognized myself. I debated leaving through the back door, but I did not know where it led. I waited until my breathing slowed, then walked back out. He was still there, sitting exactly how I left him. Eyes open, unblinking again, like he reset himself while I was gone. I told him I had to go. Something came up. I did not apologize. I just grabbed my bag. He stood up again too fast. He asked if he did something wrong. His eyes finally blinked twice in a row, rapid and uneven, like his body was rebelling. I shook my head and backed away. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, turning the screen toward me. On it was a notes app. A list, times, dates, names, little observations next to each one. Blinking frequency, tone changes, eye contact duration. My name was already there at the bottom with a few bullet points filled in. I did not wait for him to explain. I walked out. I did not look back. Outside, the air felt too bright, too open. I leaned against the wall and breathed until the world felt steady again. My phone buzzed. A message from him. Then another. Then another. All sent within seconds. I did not open them. When I got home, I checked the app. His profile was still active. Updated recently. His bio now mentioned honesty and trust. I blocked him, reported the profile, deleted the app. For weeks after, I caught myself noticing how often people blinked. Cashiers, co-workers, strangers on the bus. Every time someone held eye contact a second too long, my chest tightened. I started wearing sunglasses more, even indoors sometimes, just to feel hidden. Sometimes I wonder how many dates he practiced on. How many people sat across from him while he forced his eyes open, convincing himself he was doing the right thing. Sometimes I picture him alone, staring into a mirror, refusing to blink, training himself to look human. The weird part is that the idea sounded calm at first. Not exciting, not risky, just calm. I had been sitting in our room too long, letting days blur together, and when her message popped up suggesting a late-night hike, it felt different from the usual coffee or food plans. She said it helped her think. She said the trail was easy and popular. She said it was better at night because there were fewer people. I remember staring at my phone, feeling that little spark of doing something out of routine. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I needed to stop overthinking everything. Her profile had been simple. Pictures taken outdoors, lots of trees, and open sky. Her smile looked real, not filtered to death. She talked about liking quiet places in late hours. Nothing about her seemed fake or forced. The only thing that stood out was how fast she wanted to meet. We barely talked for a day before she brought up the hike. I hesitated, then agreed. I told a friend where I was going, mostly as a joke, and grabbed a hoodie and my phone. The drive to the trailhead was longer than I expected. The road narrowed the farther I went, streetlights thinning out until it was just my headlights cutting through darkness. The parking area was small and mostly empty. 2 cars sat near the edge, engines off, no lights inside. I checked the app to see if she had messaged. She sent a pin confirming the location and said she was already there. The air felt colder than it should have. The kind of cold that settles into your clothes instead of hitting your skin right away. I stepped out of my car and listened. No voices, no music, just insects and the faint sound of wind moving through leaves. The trail sign was old, letters worn down, pointing into a wall of trees that swallowed the path almost immediately. I walked a few steps in, phone light on low. I expected to see her silhouette or at least another glow from a screen. Instead, everything ahead was dark. I paused, feeling that early warning buzz in my chest. Then I saw her. She stood farther up the trail, just enough light catching her outline. She waved casually like this was any normal meetup. I walked closer, trying to ignore how quiet it was. She looked the same as her pictures. Same hair, same jacket style. She smiled, but it felt flat in person, like she was copying an expression. We started down the trail together. She walked a little ahead of me, not turning around much. The path narrowed fast, branches brushing my arms. My phone lost signal almost immediately. About 5 minutes in, I noticed something that made me slow down. The light ahead of us flickered. Not hers. Another one. Then another. Small flashes, quick and low, like people checking their screens and hiding them again. I stopped walking. She took 2 more steps before noticing. The forest felt crowded all of a sudden, not with sound, but with presence. shapes between the trees that were not shadows. I strained my eyes, heart pounding. Then one of them stepped forward enough for his phone screen to light his face. Another did the same, then another. 5 men in total, spread out just enough to block the trail and the way back. They were not dressed alike. Different jackets, different shoes. Normal guys. What connected them was what they were holding. Every phone screen showed the same dating app. The same profile. Her pictures, her smile. My mind struggled to catch up. I felt dizzy, like I was missing a piece that everyone else already had. I looked at her. She was calm. No fear. No surprise. She checked her phone and glanced at the men like she was counting them. One of them stepped closer, lifting his screen toward me. I did not need to see it clearly to know what it was. I had swiped on that same face. I had matched with her. So had they. All of us standing there had thought we were meeting her alone. My legs felt heavy. My instinct screamed to run, but the path behind me was narrow and dark, and they were already too close. None of them touched me. None of them rushed. That somehow made it worse. It felt controlled. Planned. She moved to the side, letting the men form a loose circle. She watched us like she was observing something unfold exactly how she expected. One of the men laughed nervously and stopped when nobody joined in. Another kept tapping his screen, opening and closing the app like he needed proof this was real. It became clear fast that this was not random. She had set this up. The hike, the timing, the location with no signal, a place where people could disappear for a bit without anyone noticing. My thoughts raced through every bad possibility, every story I had ever read online about people lured into the woods. Then something shifted. One of the men started shaking his head, backing away. Another followed. Whatever they were expecting, this was not it. The circle loosened. I took a slow step back, then another, never turning my back fully. My breathing was loud in my ears. She finally reacted, stepping forward like she was trying to regain control of the moment. She raised her phone, screen glowing bright. I saw a list. Names. Messages. Dates and times. Rows and rows of them. This was not a one-time thing. This was a system. As I backed away, I noticed the cars in the parking lot suddenly made sense. Not just hers. Not just mine. All of ours. We had all arrived separately, thinking we were early or late, thinking we were alone. I kept moving until the trail widened enough for me to turn and walk faster. Then faster. I did not run until I hit the clearing near the trailhead. I did not hear anyone follow. That scared me more than footsteps would have. When I reached my car, my hands fumbled with the door handle. I got inside and locked it, heart slamming against my ribs. I sat there for a second, staring at the trees, expecting someone to step out. Nothing happened. As I drove away, my phone buzzed. Signal returned in waves. Notifications flooded in. Missed messages from her, from the app, from numbers I did not recognize. I did not open them. I focused on the road, on the solid lines and streetlights that meant I was back in a place where things made sense. Later that night, safe in my room, I finally checked the app. Her profile was still there. Active. Updated. A new photo had been added. Taken on the trail. The angle was low, like it had been snapped without people noticing. I recognized the back of my own hoodie in the frame. I reported the profile. Locked it. Deleted the app. I told myself that was the end of it. But for weeks after, every time I saw a glow between trees or a phone light in the dark, my chest tightened. I stopped hiking. Stopped trusting plans that sounded too peaceful. Sometimes I still think about those other guys. I wonder how many more came after us. I wonder if the list on her phone ever ends. I almost did not go on that date, and not in the dramatic way people say that after something bad happens. I mean, I was already half-dressed and sitting on my bed scrolling, telling myself I could cancel and nobody would care. I had been on the app long enough that every profile started blending together. Gym mirror pics, fish pics, bios that said they were chill but somehow sounded angry. Then his profile showed up again at the top of my matches, like the app was nudging me. It said he lived alone. That line stuck out to me because it felt unnecessary. Like, why even mention it unless it mattered? I brushed it off and finished getting ready. The intro to our chat had been normal. Painfully normal. He was a little awkward, but in a way that felt real, not forced. He worked a boring job, like late-night food runs, hated loud places. When we decided to meet, he suggested a small restaurant tucked between a closed bookstore and a nail place. I knew it. Dim lights, sticky menus, always smelled like fried oil and lemon cleaner. It felt safe. Public, predictable. I got there first and grabbed a booth near the back. Not hidden, but not center stage either. The place was quiet for a Friday night. A couple at the bar, two older guys talking too loud near the window. I checked my phone and saw he had messaged that he was parking. I remember thinking how calm I felt, like this was going to be one of those dates that was fine but forgettable. He walked in and spotted me right away, taller than I expected, wearing a jacket that looked too warm for the weather. He smiled and slid into the booth across from me. Nothing felt off at first. We ordered drinks, talked about traffic, laughed at how bad the menu photos were. I noticed he kept his phone face down on the table, right near his hand. Some people do that, so I did not think much of it. The food came fast, greasy and loud on the plate. Halfway through eating, his phone lit up and buzzed against the table. Not a normal buzz. Long and insistent. He glanced down and flipped the phone over without picking it up. I saw the screen for maybe half a second, long enough for my brain to register the contact name. Why don't answer? My stomach dropped, but I did not say anything right away. I told myself there had to be a reason. Maybe a joke contact. Maybe an ex who never updated the name. The phone stopped buzzing. He acted like nothing happened and kept talking about some show he was watching. I nodded along, but my focus was gone. All I could see was that name burned into my head. Then the phone rang again. Same contact. Same name. Longer this time. He did not look at it. He did not reach for it. He just let it ring until it stopped. The silence after felt thick. I could hear the kitchen clanging, someone laughing near the bar. I asked him if everything was okay. He smiled too fast and said it was nothing important. I should have stood up then. I should have said I was done. Instead, I took a sip of my drink and tried to calm down. People lie on apps all the time. Maybe he had not updated his profile. Maybe there was some messy situation he did not want to explain yet. I hated that part of myself that always tried to make excuses. The phone rang a third time. Same name. This time, before it could even finish buzzing, I noticed movement near the front door. A woman walked in and scanned the room like she already knew what she was looking for. She did not hesitate. Her eyes landed on our booth almost immediately. She walked over, pulled out the seat next to him, and sat down. She did not look angry. She did not look confused. She looked prepared, like this was step 3 of a plan. She set her purse down, adjusted her jacket, and glanced at the table. Her eyes flicked to me and back to him. I felt like I was suddenly sitting in a wrong seat at someone else's event. Nobody spoke. Not the server, not the people nearby, not us. The woman placed her phone on the table face up. Same contact name visible, now showing missed calls. She leaned back and crossed her arms, calm as anything. He finally picked up his phone and put it in his pocket, like hiding it would help. My heart was racing. I could feel my face getting hot. I stood up slowly, but the woman looked at me and shook her head slightly, like she was telling me to sit back down. It was such a small gesture, but it froze me. I stayed standing, half bent over the table, not knowing what to do. The server came over to check on us, clearly sensing the tension. The woman ordered food like she had been waiting for this moment. She even mentioned an item that was not on the menu anymore, like she had been there recently. The server nodded and walked away without questioning it. That was when things clicked in a way that made my skin crawl. This was not a surprise. This was not her catching him. This was planned. His profile saying he lived alone. The specific restaurant. The timing of the calls. It felt like I had walked into a scene already in progress, like an extra who missed the memo. The woman finally acknowledged me properly. She introduced herself in a casual way, like we were all meeting for the first time at a party. She thanked me for coming. That part messed with my head the most. She thanked me, like I had done her a favor. She explained everything without emotion. Not angry, not sad, just flat. She said they liked to test people. See who paid attention, who noticed red flags, who stayed even when things got uncomfortable. She said it told them a lot. She talked about trust and honesty like she was reading from a checklist. I looked at him, hoping to see some sign that this was going off the rails. He just stared at the table, hands clenched. He did not look guilty. He looked nervous, like a kid waiting to see if he was grounded. That scared me more than anger would have. She said they had rules. First dates only in public. Always at places they already knew. She said she scheduled her arrival based on how long it usually took food to come out. She said they had done this before. More than once. Sometimes the girl left early. Sometimes she stayed long enough to hear everything. I grabbed my bag and stepped back from the table. My legs felt shaky, but my head was clear now. I said I was leaving. The woman nodded like she expected that. She told me I was making the right choice. That made my stomach twist. I walked out of the restaurant without looking back. The air outside felt thick and wrong. I leaned against my car for a second, breathing hard. My phone buzzed. A message from him. Then another. Then one from an unknown number. I did not open them. When I got home, I locked my door and sat on the floor, still wearing my jacket. I replayed the night over and over, catching details I missed. How he chose the booth. How he never looked surprised when the phone rang. How the woman knew exactly where to sit. The next day, I opened the app out of morbid curiosity. His profile was gone, deleted or blocked. I checked my messages and saw one more from the unknown number. I read it without thinking. It was from her. She said they appreciated my honesty and wished me luck. That was it. I blocked the number and deleted the app. Weeks later, I still think about that dinner. Not in a dramatic way. Just randomly, like when my phone rings during a meal or when I see couples sitting too close together. It felt less like a bad date and more like I accidentally stepped into someone else's routine. The first thing I remember about that night is how bored I was. Not sad bored or lonely bored, just that numb scrolling bored where your thumb keeps moving even though your brain already checked out. It was late. My room smelled like old laundry and energy drink cans, and I was half watching some random video while swiping on a dating app I had no real hopes for. That is when her profile popped up, and it felt like the app glitched for a second. Nothing flashy, just a regular face, soft smile, normal clothes, normal room behind her. The kind of profile you forget about 5 seconds later. I almost swiped past her, but something about how plain it was made me stop. No quotes, no jokes, no filters. Just her name and a few photos that looked like they were taken on different phones over different years. I swiped right without thinking. We matched almost instantly. That should have felt exciting, but instead it felt off, like when someone answers a text before you even lock your phone. She messaged first, which was rare for me. The message was short and casual, nothing weird. We talked about basic stuff, work, school, how the app kind of sucked. I noticed she never used emojis or slang, but I did not think much of it. After maybe 20 minutes, she suggested meeting in person. No build-up, no days of chatting. She said her apartment was easier. I hesitated, but I was tired of endless texting that went nowhere. I agreed, even though my stomach did that slow sinking thing. She sent the address. It was across town in a part of the city I barely went to. Lots of old buildings, narrow streets, streetlights that flickered even when it was not windy. I told myself I was overthinking it. People meet up like this all the time. I grabbed my jacket and headed out, feeling that mix of nervous and excited that usually fades once you are on the road. The drive felt longer than it should have. My phone signal kept dropping and the navigation voice cut in and out, repeating directions I had already passed. When I finally parked, the building looked older than the pictures suggested. Brick walls stained darker near the bottom, windows uneven, some glowing warm yellow, others completely dark. The entry door had a faded keypad and a security camera pointed slightly too low, like it had been adjusted by someone who did not know what they were doing. I messaged her that I was there. She did not reply, but the door unlocked with a soft buzz anyway. I stepped inside and the smell hit me first. Not bad, just old, like dust and cleaning products layered on top of each other. The hallway was narrow and quiet, no footsteps, no voices, just the hum of lights overhead. I followed the numbers to her apartment, feeling more aware of my breathing with every step. When I knocked, the door opened almost immediately. She stood there already smiling, like she had been waiting inches away. Before I could even say anything, she said my full name out loud, perfectly, like she was reading it off a screen. Not just my first name, but everything. My chest tightened. I never put my full name on the app. I barely even use it online. I laughed awkwardly, thinking maybe she saw my profile somewhere else. Then she tilted her head and asked why I had not told her about my childhood dog that died in 2008. She said it casually, but she was asking why I forgot to mention a movie I liked. My brain froze. That was not public information. That was not something I talked about. I barely remembered telling anyone about that dog except my parents. I stood there trying to process it, a hallway behind me suddenly feeling very far away. She stepped aside and motioned for me to come in, still smiling, still calm. I should have left right then. I know that now, but my legs moved anyway. Her apartment was neat in a way that felt staged. Not messy, not cozy, just arranged. Furniture pushed slightly away from the walls, nothing personal on the shelves. No photos, no clutter, no signs of someone actually lived there. The lights were dim but evenly spaced, like she wanted to avoid shadows. I sat on the couch because it was the only obvious place to sit. She did not sit down. She just stood there, watching me like she was waiting for something to load. She started talking about me. Not asking questions, just listing things. Schools I went to, places I worked, usernames I used years ago and forgot about. She mentioned a comment I read on a forum in high school, one I barely remembered writing. She knew about a scar on my knee, about a bus route I took once a week back when I did not have a car. Every detail landed heavier than the last. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it. I tried to interrupt, to ask how she knew all this, but my voice felt thin and useless. She finally sat down across from me, folding her hands in her lap. She explained it like it was normal. She said people leave trails everywhere. Old accounts, cache pages, forgotten backups. She said she liked knowing who someone really was before meeting them. It made things safer, she said. Safer for who, I did not ask. Then she mentioned my parents' address from when I was a kid, the exact layout of the house. She described my bedroom from memory, where the desk was, where the window faced. She said my dog used to sleep under that window until it got sick. That was when I stood up. My legs felt weak, but I did not care. I told her I had to leave. She did not block the door or chase me. She just looked disappointed, like I was ending a movie early. She said I should have known what I was getting into when I swiped right. She said she only matched with people she already knew. I walked past her and opened the door, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. The hallway felt different on the way out. Longer, quieter. The lights flickered more, or maybe I just noticed it now. I kept expecting to hear footsteps behind me, but there was nothing. When I reached the exit, the door did not open right away. I punched the code pad randomly, panic rising in my throat. After a second that felt like a minute, it unlocked. Outside, the air felt cold and sharp. I got into my car and locked the doors immediately. My phone buzzed before I even started the engine. A message from her. She said I forgot my jacket inside. I looked down and realized she was right. I did not respond. I drove away, taking random turns until I hit a main road. When I got home, I checked every lock twice. I barely slept. The next morning I opened the app, half expecting her profile to be gone. It was still there, unchanged. Our chat was still open, but there were new messages. Dozens of them. Screenshots of my social media, old photos from accounts I thought were deleted, even a picture of my house taken from across the street sometime that week. The last message said she hoped I got home safe and that she understood I needed time. I deleted the app after that. Changed my passwords. I told myself it was over. Then a few days later, I got an email from an address I did not recognize. The subject line was my full name. Inside was a single sentence asking if I wanted to try again somewhere quieter next time.